Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole. Hello. It is Thursday, and I am here streaming with you all, hanging out. We are streaming Wandersong, which was nominated for in the category of Excellence in Narrative at the Independent Games Festival from 2019, last year. And I'm thinking of something right now, so I'm a little distracted. I think it's actually... Oh, I know what it is. Thank you, Krellin. I know what it is. Hold on. Krellin, thank you. See if we like that as a volume better. What happened was, if you all remember, the last time I streamed, which was Saturday, we had Prax as a guest, and Prax's volume is sort of low, so I turned up the computer volume so that you could hear her, but then I didn't turn it back down again. So there's that. Right, I was telling you that I was distracted. Turning his stream into a haunted mansion. Need to turn it down a little. It's drying out your voice. Yeah, I think it should be. Let me know if it's fixed now. I feel like it should be. Because I'm getting, I feel like I'm much higher than this one. So let me know. I've turned it down. Let me know. Yes. So I wanted to tell you things. Oh, you know what I forgot? You know what I didn't even put out our announcement in the Discord. I should do that. I'm going to do that while we're chatting, like in this moment. Now you can't hear any of it. It's in the background. We'll see what happens when we actually start. I feel like you should be able to hear that. We're going to do a giveaway for today, and our giveaway for today is going to be Capitalism 2, which is an indie sim strategy game. That's going to be our one. Capitalism 2. That's it. I don't know how you win Capitalism 2. I don't know what that's about. We're gonna find out. You made it. I'm so glad you made it through the worst. I know that having somebody in your home is very stressful to you, and I was very, I was worried, but I knew that I believed in you. I knew you could get it. You could get through that, Ice Bunny. I trusted you. Yeah, very, very low. Yeah, it's almost subliminal. Wait, what song is that? What song is that? Subliminal? Subliminal? There's a song, right? There's a song, right? What's the song that I'm thinking, everybody? I didn't smoke and I wanted to at one... Well, I'm glad you didn't, because there's no need to sabotage your own health, I'm going to write this down. I think we are in... So I wanted to tell you some stuff. Random things that maybe you'll be interested in. Maybe. So I was not... as an undergraduate, I was a music... major. I was a music major as an undergraduate. I was going to be a double major, music and German studies, and I was basically double majoring throughout my entire undergraduate until my senior year, when I realized that if I wanted to double major, if I really wanted to finish that double major, I'd have to write 2 senior theses, one for German and one for music, because they wouldn't let you combine them. And I thought, I don't know if I want to write 2 senior theses, but also if I continued my double major, I wouldn't be able to take any classes that weren't either German or music. And I wanted to take some theater classes and some classes that were neither German nor music. Oh no! I minored in German studies, and I basically did all the classwork for the major. I think I only missed one class or something. It's just that I wanted to actually finish out my senior year and take some other classes. So but I basically was a German studies major. I just did not write two theses because that didn't seem very interesting to me. Look, I had things that I wanted to do. That's all. But I wanted to tell you a thing that I did do instead. I thought you might find this interesting. And the point of this story is related to what I'm about to tell you. I have an endpoint to this story, which has to do with what I was doing before I started stream today, right? So I wanted to tell you what I was doing before I started stream today, but I couldn't just, tell you that. I had to give you the backstory. Why? I don't know. So, one of the things that I did, so in my undergraduate, to graduate, you needed 34? 34 maybe classes. So did you read all the classics Goethe? No. My German studies was not as conservative as yours. My German studies was, I went to a kind of like a radical liberal school, and I did. By the way, Trooper says, Krellin, just to ease your troubled mind. Oh, good, thank you. Because I have to tell you, Krellin, what's the worst? When you decide you want to take a shower and you get yourself naked, and then you go into the shower, you turn on the water, and there is no water, and you are like waiting on that shower. That makes me very distressed. So I'm glad you have your water back. And also, hey, Dot. I'm telling a story that's going to lead up to you, actually. They don't know it because I'm talking about my undergraduate life, which makes no sense to how it's going to lead to you. But it does. In my mind, the story that I'm telling actually does lead up to you. I'm just saying. That's... So, right, so we had 34 classes or something like this, and each of our majors 15 classes. And so I wanted to take some other classes, and some of the other classes that I took... Oh, it's your shaved head today. Oh no, that's it. Yeah, Krellin, that's super frustrating when you're ready to shave your head. Like tomorrow's my shaved head day, or the weekend, and then you can't. It's really frustrating. I don't like that. So what I did, it's true. All stories lead to Little Red Dot. All roads lead to Rome, but all stories lead to Dot. I think that's actually just a true story. I think that's just a fact. I think everybody knows it. So, what some of the classes that I took when I decided to free myself of being a double major were, I took some theater classes, right? I took some Shakespeare, some voice, some of that good stuff. But also, I took computer science classes. If by Dot you mean marking on a map, then yes. Maybe. So, I also took some computer science classes. And then I was really good at the computer science classes. I took the computer science classes for my math requirement, but I ended up really liking them, and I sort of took extra computer science classes for fun. And there's a thing, Saverick says, I started comp sci and ended up in poetry, right? Like I started music and German and then dabbled in some computer science on the side, and it was great. But I found out there was this thing that happened with me in computer science. And what I'm trying to tell you is trying to explain why I was late starting the stream today. It really makes sense. And also why I went to bed at inappropriate time. So, the other day, not last night, although... Anyway, so, something about me in computer science. They're like, here's this puzzle you have to solve. Like, you have to be able to make a card game, or you have to do this thing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I would get in there and I would just start coding, and then I would code. And then they'd say okay, so they would say, you're going to decide car engines and then actor. But those things might be related, I don't know. Hello, Ice Bunny. They would say, okay, for this program, you need to do A, B, and C. And I was like, okay. So I'd start programming A, B, and C, and I would get A, B, and C working, but then I'd think, yeah, but what if I did D, E, and F? I could add D, E, and F to this program, right? And they have not taught me how to do D, E, and F. It's nowhere in the book, so I bet I could just figure it out. So then I would spend all of this time figuring out how to add D, E, and F to an assignment that only wants A, B, and C. And then once I get that done, I look at it and I think, this program is not beautiful. I'm going to work and sort of fix the GUI, and I'm going to add all sorts of things to it so it looks beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. And then I spend way more hours making it look aesthetically pleasing. And then I turn in this thing that's like this like thing, and everyone else is like, yeah, so everyone else is like, yeah, oh, here's my thing, and they just turn it in. I'm like, here's my thing, so I sometimes get lost in computer programming. It is a thing that happens where I will like start doing some computer programming and then just kind of get lost in it, and then like I don't know what time it is. And oh, you want to design more efficient car engines? Ooh, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. The problem is, Dot, that you're very talented and you can do multiple things. I can also, no, Krellin, see, but here's the thing. I didn't know it at the time, right? I didn't know it at the time. It was just a thing that would happen. I would get just hyper-focused on these things, and I didn't realize, yes, Krellin, you are correct, but I didn't know it at the time. Flowcharting really helps making programs flow instead of plates of spaghetti. Yeah. And, yeah, I didn't know it at the time, so I didn't realize that was what was going on, that this was basically ADHD, like ADHD mind. I didn't know it because I didn't know. So it is a thing that sometimes with computer science, I will get lost in it because there's something very satisfying about being able, like, one, there's something very like, it's very immediate. I mean, sometimes it's not immediate because it takes a long time, but there's something very, like, with academic writing, you write and you write and you write, and then you edit and you edit, and you can read more, and then you read more, and then you read more, then you write more, and it's never finished. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's never done. Academic writing is never finished. You can hold on to it for years. Not that I would know anything about that, but maybe I do. You overdid it. Hope they did not give you... Oh no, I got A's in all of my computer science classes. And not only did I get A's in my computer science classes, I was asked to TA for the computer science class because I knew a bunch of stuff because I taught myself a bunch of stuff. So I was having a great time. And Skematic is correct. It is really satisfying. Would you say you write more or nigh more? Thank you, Johnny Blams. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do a thing here. It changes the output. It's like very immediate. It's very satisfying. You can see what you've done. And if you can't figure out how to do it, you know the answer is just like 2 inches away. And then you want to get the answer and then have it. Like, I'm just saying that there's a way in which like there's something very satisfying about computer programming in certain ways. And you know, that's all I'm saying. Coldrake said, I cheated. Instead of flowcharting first, I just write the program and then dummy up the flowchart to fit my program. That's fair. Oh, Skabanek, you went to school for software engineering? Hey, Atomica. Hey, Schmilza. Krellin says, yeah, it feels great to get that program running perfectly in the UE just like the spec called for, and everything is beautiful, and then, goddamn, some customer asked for something completely different, and that is why I'm not a professional programmer. That is fair. And so this is the thing that I want to tell you that actually does relate to Dot a little bit, for reasons. So a couple of days ago, Dot asked me if I would like just fix a macro on Roll20, and I was like, sure, I will fix a macro for you on Roll20. Easy peasy, putting in pie. And I was like, all right, boop-a-doop-a-doo, and like make it a macro. That's cool. I can do that. And then so I started making the macro, and I was like, no, this macro can be better. Like, I could do this like really basic thing, but that won't be as good. I could make this better. I could make this more functional. I can make this like more awesome. And so then I sat there and I was like, okay, well, I can't do it. Like, clearly what I need to do is not do a regular roll. Clearly I need to make rollable tables. If I make rollable tables, that's one step fewer for the players, and that'll be really good. And then I was like, wait, but I can make these rollable tables even better. So I need to go and make tokens. So I made up these tokens, put them in the thing, put it all together, and then I had to figure out how to actually make a macro using the rollable table so it would look good. And so I worked this all out, and I spent a while on it, and then I got it to work. Yeah, fix a macro, designs a new improved nanocomputer system. I mean, you know, Chromatic says, "Hi, I hated computers because I'm easily distracted and love the forest, not the trees. I love the forest and the trees. Like, and I keep going back and forth between them. So here's what happened. The other night, when I finished it all. I got this macro going. It works. It's beautiful. It does everything. Well, no, I just lied to you. It works. It does everything it needs to do. It's got these cool icons. How awesome is that?" And I passed it over to Dot, and Dot's like, "This is awesome, thanks." And I was like, "Great." And what happened though was that there's one thing about it I don't like. There's one thing about it, that the macro, that I don't like, and that is you have to use. So in Roll20, there are two different ways you can do rolls. There's like your basic roll, and then there's the inline roll. And the inline roll condenses everything, so it makes it look nicer, but you don't get as much information. And we needed to see, the information was actually really important, so I needed the kind of the detail of the detailed roll, but I wanted the smoothness of the inline roll. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I was like, "Dot, here's the macro." She's like, "It's perfect, don't even think about it." But here's the thing. I know that I gave it to Dot. I know that. And I know that Dot said it was great and that she loved it and she said it was amazing, right? All that works. But I kept thinking about it. Like, I just kept thinking about it. I kept thinking, there's gotta be a way to do this thing that I want to do, to make this, to get the detail I want while also making it look nice, so that, like, because right now, like, I know that Dot has it. I know she has this macro, and I know it works, and I know it'll be fine, but I also know that it could look better, you know? Like, I know it could look better than it currently does, and I also know, and that I know it can look better than it currently does, and that it doesn't look better is a puzzle that is taunting me. It is taunting me. It is haunting me. It is on the corner of my mind. So Scabbynack says, "I did a maintenance tracker for a trucking company that let them track price changes over parts over time, maintenance cost per truck, everything cross-indexed. After I got it all working, the shop manager said, 'Why would I use that?' Who I had interviewed for the Scabbynack, no! Come on! You just made this beautiful thing." Coldrake said, "I worked for a private contractor in a city IT department, and yeah, make a thing and they totally change what they claim they asked for. Like, come on, don't do that." Dot says, "What Tripper doesn't know is that I'm hiding all the ugly stuff with the overlay. You're not even gonna be able to see anything but the tokens." Scabbynack says, "Could look better" is a tough one. Okay, see, right, Dot says this. Dot says that she's gonna hide everything and you won't see anything but the tokens. She says that, and I'm sure she will, but it could be better, because sometimes, like, I'm just concerned that it just won't look aesthetic enough, like that, like it could be better. No, I know, I believe her. I know that she's gonna hide everything but the tokens. I know that, but it could be better. I'm just saying that there's an answer out there that I do not know. And I just know that it could be better. And I also, this is like a little small thing. It's a really small thing, and it is this. I'm a little bit worried about, so like Dot's gonna crop it so everything looks nice for the audience. But because it's a basic roll, sometimes the data, like when you do multiple rolls in a row, sometimes the blocks don't always line up, because sometimes like the so-and-so rolls will happen above, or because in Roll20, if you roll 2 rolls in a row, it won't repeat your name. It'll just put both rolls in a row, but sometimes it does put your name in between, which is going to throw off the spacing. So Dot, I know, has made this beautiful thing. I'm sure, I haven't seen it. It'll separate those things. It'll be great. But I also know that Roll20 is inconsistent sometimes about if they show the name of the person rolling or not. And I just don't want that inconsistency to cause the overlay display to be off by like a line, because it might ruin everything. So I just want to make sure that that will not happen. That's all. I know they're there, and it eats at you. We want to do better for you, because for you. Hey now, I'm housebroken. So sorry, Trooper, but after seeing Dot's sword lesbian eyes, I've got to give her the upper hand on aesthetics. Oh no, she's amazing. Like, she's amazing. It's just that Skypemag's like, oh, one line offset? That sounds stream ending. But what if it is stream ending? No, I'm just like, look, I realize I'm talking about one line, but the line might make a difference. And so I'm just trying to see if there's a way for me to fix this problem. Ice Bunny says, Trooper, does that mean you will be sleeping earlier than 11 something my time, or do you want to tell me it's... No, I get that way when I make overlays if it's any constellation. Yeah, right? So, Ice Bunny, what's going to happen is that I'm actually going to go to bed early tonight because I've got 2 streams tomorrow and I want to make sure I can, it'll be fine. So what I've been doing, and I fell into it before stream started, which is why I was a little bit late, is I was like, okay, I need to sort of get into the API and start doing API coding, because if I can work this one API script that will let me extract the icons from the table, then I think I can put the whole thing into a role template, which means I can control exactly what it looks like, which means I can make it a uniform size so that no matter what, it will always be the same size. So it'll be much easier for Dot to crop it, and no weirdness with Roll20 will it will not be thrown off by a line at all. So I was working through basically API scripting before we started the stream today, because and I was trying to make this thing work. Coldrick, it's not being a perfectionist, it just means he's an artist, and being off twangs that artistic nerve. I just know it will be, it just might be a problem, and I don't want it to be, because I want it to be perfect. Wizard Style says, I spent full days of work on plotting scripts for figures that I knew were only for internal communication with 2 other people. I feel this. Thank you. I appreciate this, Wizard Styles. Evie says, Trooper, you are barring trouble. You don't even have to in the year of our Lord 2020. You're crazy. Look, but seriously, that one line is enough. Depending on how tight Dot has cropped that area, that one line might make it so that those tokens are not well visible. And I just really want to make sure that, because basically the space that's going to take up is going to change randomly based on how weird Roll20 can be, but if I can get this to work, it'll always be the same, and it will be beautiful, and then the world will have roses on it. Like, there'll be like choirs of people singing. That's all. I found some new goodnight songs for you. I'm so happy that I worked with the kids and know what to look for. Thank you. Krellin says, the problem with Roll20 rolling names is that the name that displays in chat and with the rolls is up to the player, not the GM. Yeah, but also just that sometimes they'll do an offset. So here's what happened. I have to tell you, this is what happened. So I was like, okay, I was this close to like figuring out. I was like, okay, I'm using this code. The code should work, but it wasn't working. And I was like, the code should work, but it wasn't working. So I start troubleshooting. I was like, okay, what if I do this? What if I do this? What if I do this? This works, this works, this works, this doesn't work. This, like, where's the problem? So I was sitting there just trying to figure out what this problem was. And I was like, and I made a whole new project to start working on this. So I did not spam their chat. And I was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I knew that I had this, I was like, what am I not getting? Why is it not working? And then I did a test. I tested something and it worked, but the thing that I tested is not the thing that I need. So I realized that the problem was not me. The problem was that the code that I was using does not do what I want it to do. Right, so that basically there's a code problem. Print line here times 75. Yes. Coldrick says, I ran into alignment issues when creating a nursing placement system. We set it up for an IBM machine monitor and then found out half the screens were dump monitors. Oh no, which had different screen calls and pixel dimensions. Oh no, and had to create screens for 5 different terminal types. That's awful. That's awful. Evie says, I hear Trooper doing all this work and I can't be bothered to send a student a list of his missing work because he's being an ass in our LMS chat. I get paid to this. Hey, I'm doing this work, but there's other work I'm not doing. So, you can feel like we're still in the same boat. And you got yourself a stress flare-up. Your cheeks are like, oh, no, it's not a stress flare-up. It's just questionable sleep habits. It's just questionable sleep habits is what I would say. But it turns out, so here's the thing. So there's a table with icons and a name, and the names are numbers because they are simulating die rolls, right? So this is how I set it up. And that works, it's perfect. But when I use this other method to extract those things so that I can then put it into a nice, beautiful roll template, the icons just wouldn't show. And I was like, how is this happening? So what I ended up doing was I changed the numbers to words just on a lark, and then everything worked. But I need numbers. I don't need names. I need actual numbers. So what I did was I went and I sent a message to the person who created this API, and I said, hey, your API works real great if the names are words but not numbers. Do you think maybe you could, fix this thing? And so now it is not on my plate. Now I'm waiting for a response from someone else, and so there's nothing more I can do at this moment. I have to wait for the person who created the API to decide if they want to fix that sort of name number situation. And so I can no longer noodle on this thing, and my noodling on this thing will be done for the moment until I get word back. And then I will maybe just noodle a little bit more, just a little bit more. Yeah, it's Scabiac is mismatch types. Basically, I think what happened is that he only designed the API to take strings, but I really need strings and also ints is what I need. I just need him to add a type. He just needs to add a type so that I can do both. But if he does that, then I'm concerned that what that will mean is that it will no longer sum those numbers, and so we're going to see how that goes. Koldrick is like, oh, staying up till 5 a.m. Points at a certain person. There remembers I've been up to 5 a.m. twice this week. I might have been up. Might have been up till 5. So Dot's like, good, no more noodles. Not until now. Not right now. Noodle wall. Until Trooper then rewrites the entire Roll20 system. Maybe not. Grabbing this, yes, Koldrick. Grabbing the string was the easy solution. And yeah. And so, but the problem is the way it's sort of currently done. It's only strings, and I need numbers because the system itself takes numbers, and I just need the numbers is what I need. I just need the numbers, or to be able to way to capture the numbers so that I can maybe do the math myself and then output it. But I need the numbers to be recognized, and if the numbers are recognized or maybe returned, something like that, then we'll be fine. And that's all I need. And once I just don't know how often this guy checks the message boards or what he'll do. But if he, I mean, one of two things are going to happen is what's going to happen. Damn it, synthesize your date. I know, right? Ooh, birthday cake. Takirosh. Is it your birthday? You know what that means, Takirosh. You know what that means if it's your birthday. You know. Evie says, oh, the flare-up thing reminded me that the kiddo we adopted out of a trumpet house just got started on testosterone, and I swear it already smells like boy, and I'm sure it's just my head, but I gotta do laundry. Hey, things work fast, Yes, Takaroshi, it does mean a song cue. I'm gonna sing you happy birthday. But to finish my story, and it is public domain, thank you, is that right now I am no longer able to noodle on this macro for Dot, and so I will not. And if this person gets back to me before Dot's show starts, then I will noodle like a crazy person all over it. I'll just like noodle all over it, and then I'll fix it, and it'll be perfect, and it'll be consistent, and I'll say, Dot, I have this perfect, consistent macro for you, and then the world will be perfect, and there'll be no more war or famine, and there'll be no, imagine there's a macro. It's easy if you try. No weird formatting issues. The roll will go, oh my. Imagine there's a macro. And all the world will be in peace. You may say, I'm a dreamer. But I'm not the only one, because clearly people also in chat are also like that. So Takerosh, happy birthday. Oh my, indeed. I never thought I'd hear a coding related song for Trooper. You don't know. I've got layers. People. All I wanted was a tiny red dot in the corner of the screen, and there's Dot. It's like I just wanted a dot. That was just it. I just what. Takerosh, for you, Happy birthday to you. Hey, happy birthday to you. Yeah. Happy birthday, dear Takarosh. You're beautiful, babe. Don't go changing, and I mean that. All right. Happy birthday to you and many more. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Takarosh. Happy birthday. Lounge, thank you. I really try to get my lounge lizard on. I just feel like lounge lizards, they lounge. And also they're lizards, and who doesn't like that? You know, I'm just saying. You're welcome, Takarosh. You're welcome. Did I, the thing is, it wasn't really Frank Sinatra. It was close, but I was trying to go for like, slightly sleazier than Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra's a little bit more classy, and I was trying to go for like not a Frank Sinatra, but like somebody who was not like at the Bellagio, but somebody who was at like a small casino outside of Las Vegas, maybe outside of Reno, or maybe on a cruise ship, but somebody who's not like, or maybe like somewhere. Yeah, definitely not actually in Vegas at a good hotel, but like a lounge lizard who's in like a, yeah, not like, just take the quality down, take the classiness down like 4 steps. So Dean Martin, but I should not be surprised after hearing his announcer voice for City of Light and Shadow, right? By the way, I put up the new teaser. Done by audio by me and visuals by Ifrithia. I put that up last night. I'm very excited. So Dean Martin, Sinatra, but sleazier is Dean Martin. That's fair, actually. That's fair. Yeah. Coldrick says, I watched a clip last week. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, and Johnny Carson all singing. Oh, how's Johnny Carson as a singer? Krellin. I'm just going to say something, and I'm going to be a little evasive. Make sure you don't catch any spoilers for Friday. Now, I say, and again, I say that, and you know that I don't plan in the same way that other people might plan. I don't have a railroad that people are going on or a roller coaster. But I do know for a fact that Oscar's walking into that room where Luke's dad is, and I also know that he's got murder on his mind, and so I don't know what will happen, but I know things are going to happen. There's some things that are going to happen. I don't know how they're going to play out and which things will or not, but I know things will happen, and so don't be spoiled. Don't be spoiled. Y'all immediately started talking about the episode. I'm gonna be spoiled, but Krellin, that's why we have a spoilers channel now. I made the spoilers channel on purpose. Crit Twitch. Oh crap! I forgot I have a thing to do. So, well, I'll be around like normal. But now I have a spoilers channel, so we're gonna try to keep our spoilers to the spoilers channel. And I don't know if Dot's still here, but I did make the spoilers channel to exclude the cast. That was the real reason why I did it. That's why I did it. I did it to exclude the cast. That is fair. But I did do that, but also we'll just keep our spoilers there. So if you don't want to see them, then you can wait until after you see it, because there's some things. I did. Look, I just don't want them to have to stress about that. That's all. Can I tell you? I wanted to tell you all this. This is really important. It's about City of Light and Shadows, but it's actually philosophical. It's a philosophical thing that I realized because I was talking on Twitter. There's a Twitter thread that I sort of engaged with, and it was kind of like a theoretical thread. I don't know if you all read it, but it was about streamed RPG shows being either performative or voyeuristic. And the person who made the thread was saying that a performative stream is one that, high-level definitions, right, is one wherein the show itself is conceived of as a show rather than a game, where curtains rise and everyone's doing a show. It's a job, it's work, it's a show. And then a voyeuristic show is one where it's like, we're not performing for you. You just get to sort of come in and see it's like a real game, right? So it's sort of framed the binary, which I think is a little bit tricky, was framed as like, this is like a show where your actors acting, and this is a game where your gamers gaming, and those are the two different types of streamed RPG shows. And so spoilers won't be contained there because it's the cast that talks. But Krellin, it's a solo episode. It's a solo episode, and Greg is just not going to say spoilers in that channel. And also next week is Fox's solo episode, and she just won't say spoilers in that channel. So I think we're going to be good. I don't think there'll be spoilers. When it's a full cast, it might be harder, but when it's just only one person, I think it's containable. Hey, Barantor. So this is relevant to what this is relevant. There's a Colos thing that I want to tell you. And actually, it's all about you. What I wanted to tell you is actually about you all chat, because I had this realization that was really interesting to me. And I wanted to share it with you because it's about how I see you all. What I think of your relationship to the City of Light and Shadow is, right? So it was this really interesting realization I had about what I think your relationship for me to the City of Light and Shadow is. You all might have your own idea of your relationship to City of Light and Shadow, but in this one, and also you have more than one relationship, right? There are multiple things, but in this one, there's a one very specific instance that I was like, oh, this is amazing. I just had this amazing thought. If you break Fox City, hey, I just set up the pins. I just set up the pins, and then I see what happens. That's all. So, I see you, Barantor. So I agree with the general premise that there are games that are pitched more towards being a performance and less of a game, and there are games that are pitched more towards, or streams that are pitched more towards being a game and less of no, that I don't like how that's framed at all. An entertainment show for an audience. See, I had to nuance this a little bit, right? I had to nuance it a little bit. So I would agree that there are streams that are pitched more towards whose focus is more entertaining an audience, and on the other side of a spectrum, there are streams that are focused more towards playing the game. Let's put it that way. But this fellow's criteria to decide what is the difference between a performative game and a voyeuristic game did not work for me. Because his criteria were the criteria that he used was material, whereas the criteria that I would use is philosophical. This is important. So when he described what is a show, a stream, and also he said multiple times, which I think is very cool. He said that no style is better than the other. They're all equally valid. He said, but I have a preference, and I know what his preference is. His preference is for the voyeuristic game, not the performative game. I know this 100% by the way he described, things. Like, they're like, just little words, little descriptive words. Hey, Polished, come in. Almost, yes. He used little descriptive words that made it very clear to me that he was biased against performative shows and biased for voyeuristic shows. But the problem is that his criteria equated gamist games with voyeuristic and narrativist games with performative, right? So the criteria he used to decide what is a performative game versus what is a voyeuristic game is basically just narrativism versus gamism. So he's like, if the players are in cosplay, then it's clearly a performative game and not a voyeuristic game. If there are lots of in-character scenes, that's a performative game and not a voyeuristic game. And if you so there are all these criteria about what makes a game entertainment for the audience versus a game for the players. I didn't like the criteria. Oh, you have a presentation in 50 minutes? Oh, okay. Oh, wait, Polished. You don't know how long? Oh, Polished. I really wish that your department communicated better with you. Because this is not the first time this has happened, and I really wish they had more clear standards. That would make me really happy. I'm sure it would also make you happy, but I really wish that were the case. So he was really focused on material stuff, and Yeah, but Critical does both of those things, yet uses D&D, one of the very, yeah, right? Your university is great. I just want them to give me more detail. Oh, Bull, I made one player a straw broom, which you wore for which hat? Yeah, cosplay. And by that logic, PBTA games with my friends is also a show. Right. He also mentioned chat. Okay, so here's the thing. Chat interaction, that's where I wanted to get to in the story. Chat interaction, right, as a performative, not a voyeuristic thing. That's terrible criteria. Any PBTA game would inherently be performative even if played to no audience. Right. And the framing, and this is the thing, this is where I was like, wait, I have to poke at this one. Because the framing was that you don't do these performative things when you're playing at home. And I was like, but I do though. And like, I actually always have like long scenes where people are talking, all the kind of things that he was sort of thinking of as being performative that he would say you don't actually do in a home game is actually stuff we all did in home games. So it's like, well, you're talking about style. I don't think that's actually about performative or not. I don't think that's a good criteria. Yeah. So for me, I said, I actually think it's about philosophy. I think that you could do a performative, really, really gamist, crunchy game, or you could do a voyeuristic, really, really narrativist game. I actually don't think it's whether or not you're using rules or not using rules. I think it's about your focus, like what you're focusing on. Right. I actually think that you could do a really, really crunchy D&D game and make it performative. It's about what is your priority? Like, what is the priority? Go back to his criteria. My last Rogue Trader session was literally just an in-character staff meeting. Right. And like, I actually don't think that makes that right. And I was thinking about this and he also said two things I thought were interesting. One was, if you read out rules and explain rules for the audience, that makes it a performative game and not a voyeuristic game. And I'm going to actually really dispute that one for particular reasons in a moment. And then the other thing he said is that having audience focused mechanics also makes it performative, because then you're sort of performing for the, like, this is like putting the audience on it. And I have to come back to that one. But we have a name game, and Kira, the name game. Come on, everybody. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F, or an M will appear. And then I say bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Kira, Bobira, banana, fana, fofira, fee, fi, momira. Kira. Thank you for the resub. Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, nothing is binary, right? Nothing is binary. Definitely. Definitely. Like, that's really sort of complicated. And he did describe it as a spectrum, but I actually just don't think the criteria work very well. He also said, right, that basically if you stick to the rules, that's voyeuristic. If you just ignore the rules, that's performative. And I was like, I just, right, like I just like was like, ooh, I don't know about that. Right. So I was thinking about this. Oh, I'll get to the thing about the audience interaction, because that's the whole point of me telling you this story. He also said something interesting about agency. He thinks a voyeuristic game, the player has agency and not the character, which is basically author stance for a classic gamist D&D game where like you, the player, moves your sort of your person around the map, right? So like a voyeuristic game, like the way that you play at home is it's about the player, not about the character. And then he says that in a performative game, the player agency and character agency are conflated, which I didn't really know what he meant by that. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think, I actually think there is a difference between being like basically show focused or game focused. I actually do think there's a difference. I think the same thing can be different based on how you're thinking about it. And so for me, if you're thinking about agency in a voyeuristic focused game, the agency is with the players, the characters, the GM, whatever, like that's where the agency sits. And what I would think of as a performative game, the agency lies in the imagined audience, right? So the team, the GM and the players together, will make choices not best based on what they want to do, but what they think the audience wants to do, right? So they would say things like, oh, you know what? We should probably not have any shopping episodes because I don't think audiences like shopping episodes. So let's just cut that. Let's just not do that. Or, oh, the audience really wants this couple to get together, so maybe we should do that. So I think for me, and again, it's a spectrum, not a line. It's not about whether or not the players or the characters have agency. That doesn't make sense to me. But whether or not the team is deciding, and I also think, by the way, a lot of this is imagined because I don't think you necessarily know what the audience wants. But right, the idea of being like, oh, we should make choices in the game based on what we perceive the audience wants, or what we think will be popular with the audience, rather than sort of in the game itself. And that has nothing to do with player versus character agency. Right, so that's what I think. Playing to someone versus playing with the cast, yeah. Are you playing to please people who are yeah, right, so that's the question, right? Are you playing to please people who aren't at the table? And that, for me, is the difference between voyeuristic versus performative. Not what rules you use, or whether or not you cosplay, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't actually, for me, that's not the difference. The difference is like, who are you playing for, right? Are you playing for focus, right? Because this is a spectrum. It's a spectrum. If the audiences love shopping episodes, if the players love shopping episodes, yeah, just maybe not 5 shopping episodes in a row. And for me, Krellin, this has always been one of my now, this is not my critique with this fellow, because this fellow is clearly on the voyeuristic side, but there are a number of people who I think who are on the performative side, who imagine what the audience wants, but it's not what the audience wants. Actually, I think audiences are way more diverse. Do you know what I mean? I think audiences are super diverse and like a whole bunch of different things, and I don't think we have to narrow ourselves down to be popular, because I don't think that I think that we underestimate audiences is what I think. I think audiences we can think of as are much more diverse in what they enjoy. Caldrake says, half the joy of watching is watching the cast having fun playing, just the joy of playing. I'm running some errands to help Pyro out, but will likely be around to chat. Oh, good. Thank you, Atomica. So, and don't leave out the black powder seller. Yeah, right. There's more than one type of viewer, and I just think that. So I think that one, if you're like, this is what I'm going to say right now is not to this person, because this is personally not where they're at. But if you want to be a performative channel, my one big caveat is, don't fall into the trap of imagining that audiences only want one thing, because actually you can do a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can do you don't have to do only one thing to please this one imagined audience, because actually it's just so broad. Like, you can do a lot of things, and like, you know, let yourself be free. That's all. And then, like, on this other side about the sort of voyeuristic side is that, like, well, if you really didn't care about the audience and all, I don't know if you'd be streaming, right? So, like, clearly there's no such thing as a streamed game that is completely voyeuristic, because you were streaming it, right? Right. So, like, you know, clearly these things have to be mixed up a little bit. And views are also multi-type. Of course they are, right? They have different feelings at different moments. Some people love watching maps and token and rolls, and I want to see the cast. Neither is wrong. And sometimes you want both. Like, sometimes you want a mix of both. Like, it really, like, it's very varied. Krellin says, to be honest, audiences want lots of things, not just because audiences are diverse, but because people like variety. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to get to the thing that was really interesting to me that made me think about you all. And it was like this moment of like, really, I was like, because I had to like struggle. I was like, let me grapple with each of these criteria. I want to think about each one, because I want to give each one of them like its due, and like really ponder it and what I think about it. Kira says, that makes sense. I've always felt like audiences normally have primary, secondary, tertiary instances versus singular instances. Yeah, right? Totally, 100%. Some nights we want to be murder hobos, some nights we want to be drugging our handler in a cabaret. Yeah, that's it, right? Polish says, a completely voyeuristic game wouldn't care about proper sound or anything being visible. Correct. Catering to viewers being able to see here is inherently performative. Right, so like, I just think that there's no such thing as a completely voyeuristic game. I mean, there might be, and maybe I've seen some of them, but do you know what I mean? Like, if even the most voyeuristic game, if it's streamed, is going to have good audio and like, or at least decent audio and decent visuals. You know what I mean? Like, and what that might mean is open to a wide variety of interpretation, but you're not going to have, I don't know if you've ever seen early days YouTube. Early days YouTube, I saw a couple of streamed games. Well, they weren't streamed, they were just recorded games. where everyone was sitting around a kitchen table and you couldn't hear half of anybody and you couldn't see anything and you had no idea what was happening. And everybody was just sort of like around the table, just looking at the table. And it was not fun to watch because I didn't know what was going on. And that did not work. And we don't tend to do that anymore. That doesn't tend to be a thing we do so much. Right? So yes, games that effectively go, we don't want viewers, tend to sit at 0 to 1 viewers. And that is true. That is true, Polished. Krellin says, I've seen completely voyeuristic games, but they don't gather audiences. Yeah, and I've seen fewer and fewer of them, especially now that people are using Discord or Zoom. Scabbynack says, the most voyeuristic game is forgetting someone brought a friend who didn't want to play and has been sitting quietly in a corner. Yeah, we did this as distant games in 2005, 2015. Right. Okay, so now I want to tell you this really cool thing that I thought was like so interesting to me. Really interesting. I think you might like this. So one of the things, there were two things that he said, right? And I'm going to do the really good one second. The first one is that if you explain the rules, you're clearly performative and not voyeuristic. Except that, like, I explain rules to my players all the time. Do you know what I mean? Or, like, even if we were offline, sometimes I explain rules. Because sometimes people forget rules or there's a thing. So that's a thing. But also, the audience is there. And I actually am invested in the audience understanding the mechanics of the game enough to understand what's at stake, because this isn't a TV show. Like in a TV show, whether or not so-and-so is going to die or not is going to be down to the writers. Do you know what I mean? But in a game, whether or not so-and-so is going to die or not actually may not, might be based on mechanics. And I want the audience to understand what the mechanics are, at least a little bit, so they can understand what the stakes are. But also, maybe they want to play the game. Like, I'm not like, maybe they'd be interested in playing Fate or playing Good Society. And so I just feel like it's good for them to know what's going on a little bit at least, so that if they're, I mean, some streams do not care about that because that's not what they're thinking about, which is also totally fine. But if I'm going to run a system, I just kind of want the audience to kind of know what's going on a little bit mechanically. And I'm always thinking about ways in which I can maybe help that. And I'm trying to, I'm doing things to try to increase the viewers' awareness of some of the mechanical things, just so that, because I think it enhances the experience, right? I think it enhances voyeurism if you know how the mechanics are going. So while he thinks that would be like it would be performative and not voyeuristic to sort of let the audience in on the mechanics, I actually think that it's voyeuristic to do so, because then it's a bit more like they're at the table, Yes. Coldrake said, I stood near a person who watched a table game. I ended up whispering help in her ear, so voyeuristic game didn't last. Sherry says, I don't know. I feel like voyeuristic by definition would want people to watch, but they want it raw and untouched. And of course, where's the line between raw and untouched and not raw and untouched becomes the question. And for him, any kind of like acting makes it no longer raw and untouched, but that was also like my home games act all the time. So like that's tricky. Polish says, people need to know the rules, and it also makes sense since house rules are a thing. Yes, Polish, house rules are totally a thing, and I want them to know. We all put a paper over a monitor and poke a hole so we peer through a tiny hole. City of Light and Shadow, as much as a history lesson game is based on a period, yeah. And this is where I want to get to. And Polish says, even in D&D, I have to ask for clarification how to calculate crit damage because different games do it differently. Totally, Polish, exactly. Tripper, monologue token. There are people who watch live games to learn how to play. Yes. If you want to try a game for the first time and the book confuses you or isn't particularly well written, it can be a shortcut so long as streamers know how to play. Right. And so like, I also know that there are some people who are watching who might want to learn how to play. So that's always in my mind. But I don't think that makes it not a voyeuristic game. But here is the big thing I wanted to get to, because I was like, thought process, right? So he says that audience-facing interaction, i.e. players can donate for stuff, is performative because it sort of puts the focus on the audience rather than the game itself. And I was like, well, when I read that, I was like, maybe, let me think about it. I wanted to play around with it in my mind. I tried to watch Random Tuesday play SR6 to learn how to play SR6, but then our group decided that SR6 was poorly written and broken and stopped streaming it. Yeah. And so like for me, I often will watch a stream because I want to know how to play it or jam it, and I know that some people don't do that. So, but anyway, so of course there are different types of styles of game. But anyway, so here's this sort of thesis that if you have audience-driven mechanics, that makes it a performative game rather than a voyeuristic game. And I thought, let me think about this. Let me think about it, because I actually do have some audience-facing mechanics in City of Light and Shadow. And so I thought about this. So does that make my game performative? Because I do not feel as if my game is performative. I feel like my game is a voyeuristic game for a very specific reason, and that is that I'm running a style of game that is very rarely acknowledged, right? Like, it's a style of game that exists, but it's not particularly one that is popular at the moment, or maybe it's still popular, but it's not talked about. It's not in the consciousness as much. And because this is a game that is not as popular, I actually want to do a good job of representing it so that people who might be interested in this style can experience what this style is like. And it's like an emergent narrative that is not necessarily super teleological and driven, so that means that sometimes the story might go kind of places that it might not go in other ways. Anyway, it's actually really important for me to sort of present a style of game that I don't see represented very often, and the best way I can present this game, this style of game, which I don't see presented very often, is for me in a kind of a voyeuristic frame so that you can see what it's like to play in this style or to GM in this style, right? So for me, my interaction with the audience is actually not about performativeness, but about helping you understand, helping you be a better voyeur, so that maybe you can do this yourself. So that's like a philosophical point. Polish says, in some cases, I've seen incentives that give some control of the plot to the donor, and that I think is performative. Yes, putting a nat 20 in a dice pool in the cast can use isn't giving control. Right, and that's what I wanted to sort of say. I wanted to get to that about Polish, right? Yes, that I actually think there are different ways to do audience interaction, and some of them are more performative, and some of them are less performative, right? So I actually think that not all interaction is the same. Jer says, funny enough, they house rule it so much you probably wouldn't have learned how to play SR6. It's fair. And I wanted to sort of think about what kinds of audience interactions are you doing and what do they mean? And in this thought, Coldrick says, you set the stage, you wind up the players, and you let them go. Sometimes you don't have to jump in to nudge them for 10 to 20 minutes at least, at many times, which is an amazing gift for gaming. We're very immersive, right? Yeah, I like a really good... didn't they house it because they couldn't figure out what the rules were? I have no idea. I think they had an early copy or something. There was something going on there. But so for me, it's like I want to represent this style that I enjoy that I don't see represented very often online or in discussion. So like actually a kind of a voyeur thing is actually important, but a transparency so that it's explained. Hey, Sea Spider. But this is what I realized, what I am doing. Like I had the realization of what I'm doing with my audience facing interactions with Kolos, and I wanted to tell you what it was because you're involved. You're relevant to this. This is I think interesting. One of my home games gets us so caught up in our roleplay that the GM has left the table for half an hour to grab food, knowing we're busy. Yeah, I mean, Polished, I wouldn't want to leave the table while you're having that RP because I'd want to see it because I'd be so excited. I would be so excited to watch your roleplay. If I went to go get food, I'd miss it, and I'd be so sad to miss your amazing roleplay. I'd be so sad. So here's what I wanted to say. This is my realization. I was like, okay, because I don't feel that the way that I do audience interaction is performative in the way that some other things are performative, where, for example, the players can just throw in a random deck of many things and cause chaos to happen or whatever. It doesn't feel that way to me. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? And who are you to me in the instance of player interaction? Like, who are you? So I thought about it. And this is what I realized. I do not see the interaction between you all and the game Kolos as audience-facing activity. You are an audience, that is true, and this is activity aimed at you. But what I actually think of it as being, and this was like my moment, is I see you all in these moments as helping me with the simulation. Right, like, because as a simulationist, right, as doing a sandbox with a simulation, I've got a bunch of different factors that I have to sort of deal with, and I have to work them out, and I've got to figure out, okay, well, how will this work? Or how will that work? And what I am doing, or what I'm imagining myself doing, is bringing you all in, not as an audience that I'm catering to, but you are basically one of my helpers, right? Like, I'm thinking of you as like back in AD&D first edition, they talked about having a role for someone who's like a GM's assistant who would take over and like would play the monsters, right? So you'd have like a GM who'd run everything, but then you might have like like an assistant GM or like I can't remember the name they gave it, but they had like a name for this person who would basically run the monsters and encounters, or if somebody had to go to a separate room, they would go over there. It was kind of like yeah. And so for me, because I've got this big simulation going on, and I actually think that basically this is really weird, but for me, having you all control, decide what you think the communists will do, limited by what options I give you, by what options I think are realistic, because there's some options I just won't give you because I'm constraining the simulation, right? But by having you take care of that, it actually makes me feel like the game is more realistic and a better simulation because I am only one head and I can't, you know what I mean? Like I just think it's a little bit better for the simulation if there are some other people who are not me messing with some things. I think it's actually better for the simulation. And so for me, it's not like I don't put those things in there, and like I don't charge any money for it, of course. And I think that would change the dynamic a little bit, and that's one of the reasons why I don't. But I put those things in there because I feel like you can help me with the simulation. So I don't think of it as me doing those things to entertain you or me doing those things to get money from you or whatever. I think of it as like, oh, hey, I need some help like with the simulation, and I need some like somebody outside of my own brain to help me with the simulation, and you all are smart and you're cool, so just help me out here. And so I realized that for me, I think of your participation, at least the way I have framed it, as actually being part of the simulation rather than it being entertainment. And that was the right, that was the sort of realization that I came to, and I was like very excited about it. I was very excited about it. Yeah. He usually stays, says Polished. I encourage players to hang out and chat, but we really talk to chat out loud. Like if I get a raid or something, I might go, hey, this is what we're doing. Yeah, no, Polished, actually I'm very similar that way. I'm actually very similar in that sense that I don't do a lot of talking to chat during the game. I kind of limit it to the beginning, the middle, and the end because I've got a lot to pay attention to during the game. So I try to keep chat up in case there's some kind of technical difficulty. I know chat will tell me, or if there's something if there's something I need to know, chat will tell me and I'll see it. But I tend to like read chat when I'm rewatching the VOD. Yeah. Thank you, the antagonist player. Thank you, Krellin. We're the same as the player character shakes her head, making commentary as if we were part of the overall environment between scene changes. Yeah. I played a game like that one time. I never played with the GM again. We've almost played Wandersong for an hour. It's true. I do. I talk for about an hour. It's true. He spent the whole session telling his assistant that they can't do what they wanted with the only PC they had control. Oh, Scabby Neck. If you're going to have an assistant GM or antagonist player, let him go and do it. And so for me, you all function basically as basically you're just not an audience. I mean, you are also an audience. It's not like you are not an audience. You're also an audience, of course. But I also think of myself as an audience. See, this is the tricky thing. This is where I feel like these lines are a little bit muddy, is that if I'm not streaming, like when I was playing over in San Diego, I would sit and watch my fellow players for a half hour if I wasn't like, we are each other's audience. So there's always an audience, I think, in the way that I tend to think of RPGs. Not for everybody. It's not universal, right? There's always an audience in the way that I play. And that audience is me as a GM, or if I'm a player, as a player, I'm also an audience member. So because you know what I mean? There's always an audience. But I also think of your game interaction as being not performer audience relationship, but sort of a fellow player, or in a kind of a complicated way. I admit I've seen times when chat has said something unique and I note Trooper typing a note or two, which makes me wonder if he gets inspired. I'm usually taking notes all the time. I'm often taking notes on the. If you see me taking notes, I will tell you, because my notes are ridiculous and you don't want to see them because they're embarrassing and they don't make any sense. If you see me taking notes, it's because the players have said something that I need to remember later, or I have said a name. I have said, like, most of my notes are basically details that I need to not forget. If I write them down, I don't have to rewatch the VOD right now to get it. So most of my details are either basically detailed. Most of my notes are details that I've made, that I've sort of said at the moment that I need to write down so that I can type them up later. When you watch Twitch, Twitch watches you. Yes. Yeah, it's like a participator audience, but yeah, we're not an audience, but we aren't not one either. Yeah, it's that kind of tricky thing where like you all exist in two modes, right? You exist in two modes where You are an audience. I'm also an audience. But your participation, I do not perceive of as audience participation. I perceive of it as you being an aid, right? That you are an aid to me as a GM. And so, and that feels different to me. That feels very different to me. Like it doesn't feel, yeah, it feels different to me. Like that feels like a different way of thinking about it. To be honest, I feel like I'm just a viewer, says Crit Twitch. Co-conspirators. Like sometimes I feel like you're all co-conspirators. I generally read chat because in addition to playing writing, I also produce and mod. Yes, I normally don't have to mod because I have, I've got Jer and I've got Rissa, so I normally don't have to mod myself, so I don't have to be that closely paying attention. But if I don't, then I, like when I do my, if I don't have mods there, then I also have to read everything. Crit Twitch says, yeah, now that Trooper has said we are the other factions, I'm afraid Regina will come after us. She might. Actually, she probably will. Fires up proxy, probably too late. I'm a random table. We are some of the best. We're the angels and devils on your shoulder. Yeah, basically, and there's some ways in which, and I actually enjoy you being angels and devils on my shoulder, or sort of doing those things. I'm still mad the episode isn't titled I've always wanted to see a barn. That's the best title, but I didn't get that suggestion until after we named it. Krellin. Makes me sad. And here's the thing that's really interesting. And part of this, I think, is about, so work with me. I think one of the reasons why I can conceive of this interaction between us as being not performative, but being still part of a voyeuristic situation is two things, actually. And this is really interesting to me. One, because you are not paying money. Oh, that's true. That's true. I could go back and edit it. Now I have to take a note. Right? Now I have to take a note. Take a note. Taking a note. There we go. I don't want to hold a presentation today. I want to go back to bed. Polished, mood. So if you were paying, right? If the purpose of the interaction, I knew the moment that I heard Marcus say that line that it need to be the title. It's really good. So the minute, some shows have interaction for money in ways that are just super cool and awesome, and it's great. Some shows, I watch them and I feel like the interaction for money is the point, right? Like that is the point. And that because they need it or whatever it is, right? They need the money or whatever they got. And so that the financial transaction becomes the point of a lot of those things. If it takes more than an hour to explain the stance of the discussion, it makes me feel like as if this fellow is trying to twice his view. But I think here's the thing is, I actually think that this, the larger framework this guy came up with, a performative versus voyeuristic, is really good. I actually really like it. I think it's very cool. And of course, it's made me think a lot. I actually think it's really good. I just think that rather than saying, if you use rules, you're voyeuristic, and if you don't, you are performative. Actually, I think it's about why and how you use rules, not if you use them, right? Because I think that you could use rules in a way that's very performative, or you could use rules in a way that's very voyeuristic, or or vice versa. I actually don't think I think it's a lot about the why, not the what. Yeah, so I just kind of think that like it was just a different. I mean, basically, I just think that the concept is good. I just think that the criteria should have been a little bit looser. That's all. Definitely bishop weights are fun. I remember having a complete breakdown because I no longer knew what the word science really meant. That sometimes happens. That sometimes happens to me. Interaction for me being the point. I'm getting corporate sins flashbacks. Still, Mega Giga Sharky was awesome. It was. Hey, Prax. Hey. And so for me, I think that you can. So I don't have money involved in our interactions. I think you can do it in a way that isn't performative and still have money. But for me, what not having it be tied to money means that's not why I'm doing the interactions, right? I'm not doing the interactions because for money at all. And I'm also not doing the interactions because I want you to be engaged. I'm not doing the interactions because I'm like, oh, if I don't have interactions, you all will be bored. Because this, like, you know, this is a French resistance game. You're going to watch it or you're not. You know what I mean? Like, if I really wanted people to be, if I wanted to be popular, I would not be running a French resistance game. That's all I'm trying to say. Then if I did, there'd be like, I don't know, there'd be Cthulhu in it or something. So I was thinking about that, and then there's another thing that it's the only exciting part of each episode, and I think the other thing that makes a difference for me is that everything that happens in my mind still can work in the game. And what that means is that, and this is not a spoiler, or is it, if at any time I think that our PCs cannot get support from London, I'm just not going to turn on support from London. Like, that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it doesn't make sense in the game world. So I'm not beholden in a way to some other thing. Like, for me, it's all about, does this work in the game? The radios, that works in the game. And somebody's like, oh, we need a new group goals. Like, only when it makes sense, right? So like, I'm not making group goals. When I made that radio group goal, which was such a great, somebody in chat just suggested it, and I was like, that's great. And the reason why I did it was not because I was like, ooh, I want the audience to feel invested. I was like, I don't know if London can get all 5 radios. Like, because there's like a lot of, like, there's logistical problems. These radios are difficult. Like, there's a lot of factors that I don't know whether or not London in my world can get them or not. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let chat decide that one because I don't know. And so I think that you all can decide. So for me, you were helping me figure out how many radios London could gather up. And so that's what that was for. Like, it was because I needed your help on this question. And so for me, that really makes this it feels very different to me than like a performative thing, which also is very valid, by the way. It's also very cool to have a performative thing. I thought that I thought there were some things that I thought were very, very cool. I think you can do that really, really well and have that be really fun. But for me, that's actually not how I'm thinking about it. And I hadn't really thought through, like, sort of theorized what it was I was doing in that way. And but I had some weird feelings, which I'll tell you about in a second after I check chat. But I realized, oh, that is what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I really am thinking about you all as a source of aid to me, right? Like, you are helping me as a GM, and that's very interesting to me. But aren't I? Well, see, Krellin isn't that interesting, right? I'm not top 1%. I'm not top 1%, but I'm in the top 50. I'm like consistently the top 50 of the tabletop RPGs category. So like, good for you. For me, the fun of being able to help bolster aid from London is another fun thing with the game. Yeah, Colas is like the 33rd most viewed stream by various statistics. Yeah, so like I'm like anywhere between like 30 and 50. And it was a challenge to get that goal, and the gauntlet was thrown. It was more of a challenge than Trooper even intended. It was, because I actually thought it was. I didn't realize that you were limited to 2,000 per stream. I did not realize that. So then I was like, oh. But you know what? It was okay because I thought, oh, we could get this number easily because people can, like, you know, pile on the points. But then it turns out you couldn't. I was like, oh no. But then actually that was actually pretty exciting for me, because then actually I didn't know if London could get the radios, and so then I didn't know, which was good for me. I was very excited to know that. Yeah, I just thought you'd throw your points at it, right? On the monetization of the game, I think Zoe uses it well for the metaverse game. They figured out a really good way of integrating into the game. See, I actually think, I will say that I think that actually there was the stream alert is actually built into the group challenge, and so I didn't actually realize there was a thing. Ooh, there's a sub going on right now, and I'm gonna just say, the name game. Come on, everybody. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F, or an M will appear. And then I say bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and fo. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Rissa, 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 Bobissa, Banana, Fana, Fofissa, Fee, Fi, Momissa. Rissa. Thank you for that resub. 18 months. Oh my goodness. Yeah. A personal limit seems to be built in. Yeah, I think it is. There was a bit in the beginning where a lot of people were worried about the radios. And actually, this is what, in the end, I actually thought that was really good, right? Because I picked a number that I thought would be like, actually not that hard, considering everybody's like points. And then it turns out it was much harder than I thought it was. And I thought that was better because then it meant that I, as a GM, didn't know. And I actually really liked that because it really was a question. And now I did say if we didn't meet the goal, we would basically get as many radios as you, like it was like 25K a radio, right? So you would get as many radios as you, or no, that's not right. 30K a radio. Yes. And so then it was interesting, right? I hate joining late because of work. I see Wandersong and has lost a cold. Oh no, but it's my first hour. We're gonna hit it. 30K radio. So that was important to me. And here's the thing that I had been feeling this thing. By the way, we're gonna pop over. I've been feeling this thing for a while recently, and I wasn't able to figure out what was going on with this feeling. It had to do with you all, by the way. And I wasn't quite certain what to do with this feeling because I had this feeling and I was thinking about some stuff and I wasn't really able to figure out what to do with this feeling about you all. And then, like 2 or 3 weeks later, the feeling has been happening sort of multiple times. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I have this really amazing conversation on Twitch about performative versus voyeuristic. And I have this realization about what it is you are doing for me in the game with regard to sort of our interactions. And I realized now that I had this amazing conversation on Twitter, which I'm so glad that he posted that thing. Now I understand something that has been sort of poking at me. And oh yeah, if people were not spending points in non-cola streams, I don't know if you would have made it. And I'm so glad it happened. And this is what I wanted to tell you. So I've been thinking about writing up the game as a book, right? I've been thinking about, okay, like I want to go and write this up as a book so I can put it out there because I'm really excited about that. But as and I've been thinking about this for some time, and I take notes here and there and I get an idea about what I want to say or how I want to write it down. And this is an ongoing thing for me. And it's hit me a couple times and I just didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know what to do about it, and I've been just like pondering, and this thing has hit me a couple times, and it is this. In City of Light and Shadow, their starting number of fate points, their starting refresh is 1. That's what they start off with. They don't start off with 3, they start off with 1. However, London can give them 4 more, and they get 1 from their faction. So that's an extra 5 that's a group. Not individual, but it's a group one. And that's 5 points. That is still not the same amount that you would have gotten if you were having a normal refresh of 3. Because if you have a normal refresh of 3, there's going to be a total of 12 fate points out there. And as we started the game, what you're getting is a total of 9, right? So it's actually a little bit less. Oh, I do. Oh, you're right. Oh, thanks, Rissa. Prax. Here, I'm just gonna remove you for, oh wait, there, and also there. Prax, you've been removed. You've been removed. So I thought about, like, what do I do about the fact that the players basically have 4 extra fate points when I talk about this in the game. Prax remembers. No, Prax, no! I'll just have to put a Prax in it. If you like it, then you should have put a Prax in it, right? So, we all have a Prax-shaped hole in our hearts. And I was thinking about this a lot, and I was like, well, I suppose what I could do is just put in the book that have them start with a refresh of 2, But if it's a streamed game, have them start with a refresh of 1. Like, I could have a whole section on like I could do that. Thank you, Prax. I appreciate that, because I was shaking my fist in real life. But as I was thinking about how to take you out of the game, right? Like, if I'm writing this book, I'm not going to assume that people are streaming, so I've got to write it for like non-streamed people. But as I was thinking about how to take you all out of the game, I realized that I was feeling sad. That I like just like thinking about writing it up with you all missing made me feel sad, and I didn't know why. And now I know why, and that is that you all are actually a really you have become an integrated and important resource for me as a GM that I really value, and that I value it so much. I don't, and like thinking about like the thought of writing this game without you all here as a resource and as like co-conspirators makes me sad, actually. I'm not like desperately sad where I'm gonna weep and listen to like the Smiths or anything, but like it's a loss. Like the idea of not having my co-conspirators is a bit of a loss, and now I know why. And so like it was like I feel really good about having this realization that I just did not have before. I just had the feelings, but I wasn't sure what was going on, and I am very excited about knowing what that is now. And that's really good, actually. That's really good for me. If we put Pax in there, we will only talk history and not let Lala finish the damn quest, which we're gonna do. I could sit in a chair in the corner and just listen to Pax and talk history or gaming. Yes. You're a really good random table, right? But your random table, but that you're human beings though, like you're actual people. So, oh, that's weird. No. No. I think I just. Okay. Well. All right. Okay. It's good. I love listening to passionate, intelligent people talk about things. Me too. I like bouncing ideas off people who GM. They should have good input. Yeah. And so now that I know and can articulate what it is you mean to me, that you are co-conspirators who are helping me with this, and now that I can see how deeply integrated you all are into this project, because it's not like you're not like I have a really hard time imagining what this game would be like without you all, to be honest. I mean, I could do it. Do you know what I mean? Like I could do it without you all, but it's easier with you as co-conspirators. And so now I'm thinking about when I write this as a book, right? When I write this up as a book, I need to have a whole section on streaming, I think. I think I have to actually put in a chapter on streaming and talking about if you are going to be streaming this or not. I think, and actually this is good because, and this is good and important, and here's why. I noticed that a lot of people stream games, which is great, and as well you should. That's awesome. How do I live without you? I want to know. That was a bit of a scandal, right? Because it was Leanne Rimes who sang it originally. And then, yeah, that's the song, right? Leanne Rimes sang it originally, but they thought she was too young and they felt uncomfortable with her singing this song for a movie. It was for some movie. And so then they actually had Faith Hill sing it instead of Leanne Rimes, and I don't think they told her. So that was How Do I Breathe? Thank you. How do I breathe without you? Trisha Yearwood, that's right. It was that's what it was. It was, I think it was supposed to be Leanne Rimes first, and then it was Trisha Yearwood, or Trisha Yearwood, like, yes, that's what it was, right? Yes? Thank you. Prax, you can get those details. Now I want to see Trooper typing this book with Rissa standing over his shoulders, reminding him to eat, sleep, and save at proper intervals. Yes. Oh, and then Leanne covered it. Thank you. Thank you, Prax. Because I knew there was a little bit of scandal going on there. Also, I actually think we need to be here. So I realized that that's what I need to do. That I need to have a section in the book that is basically about streaming it and what kind of changes you'd make to the game if you're streaming it and what kinds of things you can think about if you're streaming it. Like really being very, very explicit about integrating streaming into the game itself, into the core of the rule book. Wikipedia rhymes is first, and it's because that's what I thought. I thought that it was Leanne Rhymes first, that she was supposed to do it. She did do it, but then they felt weird about her doing it because she was kind of young at the time, and so then they just had Trisha Yearwood do it instead. And I don't think she knew. Like I think there was some kind of her not knowing some of these details. So that's awkward. I don't think that's the way to do this. Actually, it might be the only way to do this. No, we can do it this way. Yeah, so I actually want to do a streaming versus tabletop chapter in the book, because I find that, and this is just my thought, that they both have the same release date, but there was scandal about it. There was like a little bit of drama about this. There was a little bit of drama about this. Diane Warren wrote it. Diane Warren writes everything. Oops. Well, that's okay. You probably need to add a short digression on the difference between streaming and virtual TTRPG. Yeah, I think so. And basically what I was thinking of, and this I'm really excited about this, what I was thinking of is that most RPG books don't really talk about streaming at all in the core rule book. Like that's not in the text. There are a couple, Cthulhu Confidential has a section on playing virtually. Some like, hey, Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds are options if you want a VTT, and you can use Zoom or Google Docs. Like there's like a couple of different, there are some games that talk about if you're not face-to-face, how you might do this. Not many, to be honest, and usually it's just like a list of resources. But actually what I want to do is actually speak much more specifically about things to think about and opportunities if you're streaming the game. Like what are the things that you can do if you're streaming the game, if you're not streaming the game. And I think I definitely would say, if you're streaming the game, you might want to use channel points or something like this as a way to do various things. But I would recommend that you cap this, because what you really don't want to do is distort the economy of the game. So cap here, make the player starting values this, if you're going to do that. If you're not going to do that, do this instead. Here's how you can harness the audience's knowledge to aid you as a GM. Like I really think that I think what I'm going to do is have like a whole section that is very explicit about how to integrate this particular game, but maybe any game, into a stream setting. And because I've thought a lot about, because you know, we've all watched a lot of streams, and I've thought about things that work less well than others, things that like there are some things that work less well than others. I will just say that that maybe could work, whatever, but some things work less well than others, and I have some thoughts about that I feel like I could share in this book, which I think would make the book a little bit different. Dealing with props, just like things to think about, but also like low tech. Like if you don't want to spend a lot of effort, like you don't have to be. Wait, no. Oh gosh, I need the bird to tell me what I need to do. Okay. All right. Oh. It's fine. Little bird's hanging out with me. It's fine. And I just don't see a lot of, like, I just have yet to see a book that really integrates maybe I don't need this bird. Do I need this bird? No, I don't need this bird. I don't need the bird. It's fine. The bird's the word, but I don't need the bird. It's fine. The key difference of playing with an audience versus playing without one. So I think that I have to tell you, I'm really excited about having a chapter in an RPG book that I actually do need the bird, everybody. That's going to be a bit of a problem. I need this bird. Hey, bird. Thank you, bird. I appreciate that. And I just lost you again. Thank you. Here we go. There we go. Perfect. This is weird. I also don't even where I'm going. Hey, Dine D&D. Talking to streaming in a book is describing an ephemeral tool, a potentially longer lasting info medium, longevity and game playing rabbit hole. Bird is the word. Hey, Dark Twins, how are you doing? And playing with not an audience that might be audiencing, but not. Yeah. So the thing is that, you know, back in the day, some of those older books would give you advice on, you know, photocopy machines or whatnot. They like, how many times? Well, actually, I don't know about you all, but I know about me. I have definitely read game books that have said you can photocopy this, and I just don't think people photocopy anymore. So some things are always going to be a little bit the way they are. I think that's just sort of life. But I think that there are some interesting conversations to be had about playing virtually, but also streaming if that is where your passions and interests lie. And giving some good advice based on, oh, well, look at that. Based on some experience. Rhymes was 15 when she reads that song, and I shouldn't be muted. Am I muted? Hello. I don't think I'm muted. I'm not muted. Though honestly, 15-year-old love being of the how do I live without you song makes more sense. I think it was because I think it was the movie. I think that because she was contracted to do it, but I think in the end, movie people got weird about it. I don't know what happened, but she was out, and then Trisha Yeard was in. I'm sorry, Krellin. Don't die, speakers. And do you know one of the big things that I think is really important to think about if you're going to be doing audience interaction on a streamed game? Also, book is like to be an ebook these days or PDF. Yeah, right. So basically, I think that, and also it'll be like a little chapterlet. It'll just be integrated throughout with some advice at the back in the GM section and maybe also the player section. I don't know how I'm going to organize it yet, but the point is there'll be advice. Because the thing is, what I want is for this book to be a setting guide, right? It's a book, full book, but also an advice book on how to do player-driven sandbox games, whatever kind that is. I would hope that if you got this book, you could run a City of Light and Shadow campaign if you wanted to. But if you wanted to know a bit more about the techniques of doing this, either as a player or as a GM for other kinds of games, that you could also pick up this book. And so I'm hoping that it'll have use value beyond just for the setting itself, because I actually really like the style that I'm jamming. I really enjoyed. I don't get to jam this way all the time, but I really like it, and it's not represented so well in the hobby because it just isn't there's when people when people do GM tips or player tips, it's never about this style. It's always a different style. Modules are never in this style, so you're not going to get modules in this style. There's just not a lot of explicit support for this particular style and how to do it, and what are some pitfalls and when not to do it. My advice would be, don't do this style if you're running a one shot. Just don't do it. It's not great for a one shot. It's not really ideal for a 2 or 3 shot either. It works best if you have a little bit more time to breathe. So there's a lot of things that I could talk about, and this is not advice that tends to be anywhere. And so I just want this book to not only be a game book for City of Light and Shadow, but also a resource for people who might want to do this style, because I really like the style, and if other people like it, I want to help out. So this is it's 2 times. Oh. Highly useful in the now, come what may. Yeah. This looks like the final boss meeting. Do you think we really might finish it? Maybe. Atomic Return is impending. I think that this does look like a final boss to me. So I want to say something about players buying dice or with other money or channel tokens or these kinds of things. And I have some thoughts about this, and I've had some thoughts about this for a while, because I think you can do it well and I think you can do it less well. And I have some thoughts about some caveats. You can do whatever you want, but I have some things to think about. And the thing that I would say is that the danger is setting up twofold. One, games have not been written with the assumption that this might be happening, right? So when people are sort of finding some way to do audience interaction, they're bolting audience interaction onto a pre-existing game, right? So the game is not set up with this in mind. My book will have this in mind, that if you want to have audience interaction, then you should actually adjust these switches here. If you don't, then you should do this here, right? So I actually want it to be built in. Most games do not. And so then what ends up happening is that people will bolt on some kind of audience interaction, very often a die roll of some sort, some kind of a thing. But there are ways in which you can do that. In eFormat, you could even link to the VODs. Oh, I could, Rissa. That's true. Rissa. Rissa. I could not just link to the VODs, but if there were a particular scene, a particular moment that was an example of a thing that I wanted to discuss, I could link to the exact time hack in the VOD, right? Like I could say, here in this scene, this happens, this happens, this happens, and this is what I did, this is how I did it, or this is the thing you should think about. Like I could cite my sources specifically. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. I'm going to think about that. And I think, I would hope I'd get a print version. I would talk to Craig from Craig Burger Games about that, because he's very helpful. But yeah, no, Snebik, I've never seen suggestions like that in a book either. I've never seen any, and I want to write that book, basically. I want to do that because I think it'd be good. But I actually could actually do really specific things at the back, which is, hey, Anio, which I think would be really cool. I could say, look, in this scene, here are the things that are going on, and I can actually make it, you get to see an actual example. You don't have to watch the whole VOD, but like you could watch that one scene. I could say, okay, here's what the problem was, here's how I dealt with it, and here's how you could think about, like, in your own situation. Because Rissa, you often have a smart idea, because I actually I personally work really well with examples, and I always get frustrated in RPG books when they're not examples. You know when you read a book and they have some kind of weird dice mechanic, and then they don't give you an example of how it plays out, and you're like, wait. Like I would just like an example. Give me an example. So I appreciate examples very much. So the big thing is, you have to be really careful when you do audience interaction that you do not distort the economy of the game's economy, and that you pick the right things to incentivize, because some things are not going to work well. Some things will work better than others. And I think and Krellin will remember, some people here will remember, in Corporate Sins, Shadowrun 5 game, initially you could donate to give the players edge, and that was not a good choice. Edge is too powerful, and there was no cap on it. So there was no cap on how much edge you could give them, and it was also edge is really powerful. So it basically distorted the game quite a lot. And then they moved away from that. They in the beginning you could donate edge, and then you could not. Then it became dice instead, because dice, right, was like it didn't work. Sea Spider's like, didn't work. No cap for just about any resource seems like it could go bad, right? So like one of the things I would talk about is like, you have to have a cap. Like well, you don't have to. But here's the problem though. Here's the problem with the cap. If you are doing donations because you need to raise money, then you don't want to cap, right? Like you don't want to cap if the purpose of that interaction is to raise money for the cast or for the channel or whatever. So then you don't want to cap. But I'm gonna just say that you have to really be careful about, if you're gonna have no cap, then you need to be really, really careful about what you're gonna choose those donations are going to impact, because you very quickly you can warp the game mechanical economy, and that will make the game not work very well mechanically. So you have to decide, what is it that you want, what do you want to incentivize, how are you going to do it? And it wasn't just game balances, Krellin. When they switched to dice, they also lowered the price, which incentivized more people to donate. Oh, that's true. Shout out to FFG Star Wars RPG for introducing its proprietary dice system before giving any context and with no examples. Wizard Styles, that would be like, we need examples is what we need. If you want to raise money, you need to learn to work around uncapped rewards. Yes, and so then you need to be really mindful of that. You can't just say, like, I think my point, C Spider, would be, you can't just say like, oh, I need to raise money, which is totally fine and valid. So I'll just, we'll have no cap and we'll do this like sort of core central thing that is actually part of the balance. Don't pick that one. Don't pick that resource, because that resource will work less well, unless you're doing a charity one shot where you just don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like, because that's a whole different thing. You could also cap the amount that can be applied to a specific situation if you're not capping more broadly. Yes. Yes. And I also think, so like, I think that there are ways to go about donating money, and there are things to think about ahead of time, right? And I think that sometimes people don't think about it ahead of time, but Edge was not a good choice. Dice was better, because it's a dice pool system. So Dice is a better system than Edge. I think making Corpson's pink mohawk was how they adjusted for uncapped rewards. Actually, I think that's true too. I think that's what happened too, actually, Krellin. Yeah, I think that's true. And like Dark Twin says, you could cap it in a specific situation. You can do other things too. Like, it also kind of depends on where you're going. So for example, something I thought was really interesting about Foreververse, which was on Geek and Sundry, which did have a donation mechanic, but you did not, and well, they sort of had a donation mechanic. That's actually a little bit tricky. The mechanic was, you could not have done Black's trench coat. You couldn't have. No, it's true. You couldn't have. And if you wanted to do Black trench coat, you'd have to think, but you still wanted to have donations. You're going to have to rethink that system. You're going to have to think, okay, maybe I have to cap it, or maybe it becomes a different thing that those donations can impact, or you work them differently. So I remember in Foreververse, Phantom Rollbooth says, I'm currently writing an RPG which creates a specific player role for an audience. Oh, that's very cool. I think that there should be more options for that sort of a thing. Like, I think that's very cool, and I want to see more of them. C Spider says, like, I don't care if you have 100 dice if you can only use 10 at a time. Yep, that, like, you can cap that way, right? You can, like, there are different ways in which you can cap, which I think is right, interesting. Player, character, game master, and course. That is very cool. Phantom Rollbooth, I want to see it. I want to see more games that are thinking about our current medium. Like, I'm just really excited about experimenting with things and in new ways, and I want to see more stuff. That's what I want to see. Dine D&D says, I have audience suggestions curated into a multi-voice chat. Yeah, that's awesome. I think we learned we had to balance the scale, right? That's a thing. Also, so in Foreververse, which they do, which I think was actually pretty cool, is that dice were donated by the audience, but you could not pay directly for dice. What you could do is that they got a die for it was a die pool system, I think, or they got a die for every subscription. Right. So if they were like, okay, we're not gonna sort of do this we're not gonna base this on, like, you donate $10. We're just gonna do it by subscriptions. And so for them, it was subscription based rather than like direct donation based, which was interesting. It meant that there were lower numbers overall, but I think it also helped keep their sub numbers up, which I think was important for them. So that was interesting, right? So I was like, oh, that's a different model. And I think that I would mention that. Like, I think I'm gonna have a section where I'm gonna talk about different ways in which you can do these things, like different ways to think about it, different models. What do you want to do? You can ponder it and give options, even ones that I have not personally done myself. And but that was an interesting model. Yeah. Phantom Robles says, it was started after a convo about how one can include an audience, whether it is one person in the corner of your living room or dozens in the Twitch stream. Yeah, that's right. Did IGF have an excellence of a narrative? Yes. And so that was interesting. So like, yeah, because Phantom Role Booth, I'm really thinking about how do you account for having an audience, right? Well, how do you make that audience more of a participant in certain ways? Like, hey, welcome back. And so that's one thing that they did. They did that by based on subs, which I thought was interesting. I'm doing it on channel points and then making caps. That's a different thing you can do. And then I think also you can do things that are not dice, right? You can do things that aren't dice. And I'm actually, there's a game that I want to run. I think I've told you a little bit about it. It's a fantasy game in GURPS where actually I want channel points to be able to work as a mana pool, right? So that like you're basically functioning as sort of generating mana that the players can then use to power spells. But it's like high level, like it's high level. It's like basically you're not a die roll. You're like basically like you're like a reputation mana pool situation, and so you are playing the ancestors in the environment, and you can generate mana that the players can then tap into rather than their own personal mana, right? That you can the channel points can be used to sort of create. To basically create favor from the ancestors, right? So, and that's a very different, and it would be like an integrated mechanic into the magical system. I'd have to sort of figure out how I would articulate it if there were no audience, but for me, I'm really excited about, and that is not at all dice based, right? That's not about donations for dice. It's actually about, it's actually very, very sort of world based, and I think it'll be really interesting. Oh boy, you again. At a time like this? What is it with you humans? Wait until the worst possible moment to show up. Stuff's about to go down. Big stuff. The Dream King's fading. And once he's gone, poof, the whole world's over. You sure you want to be here for it? You should go hold someone you love. Or something. We're the hero's welcome party. You met her? She's pretty intense. Can't really say I'm a fan. Having your overseer killed ain't exactly fun. Wonder if there's an analogy you'd understand. It's probably kind of like if your mom got killed or something, but it's also kind of her job to die, and you're kind of supposed to help. I doubt you get it. Looking back, gonna see the chat because chat's very exciting. Especially for the fundraising aim, one can look at things like GDQs for good ideas. Donate to name an NPC, for example. Yes, Dark Twin Chat's another great example. Like, I think there are a lot of things that you can do besides just like giving people a die, and also what you like. A reroll is different than adding them extra die, right? Like a reroll is not the same. There's a big difference between saying if we're doing a dice pool and dice pools range between 2 to 10, and you can just donate extra dice that you can add in, and all of a sudden you're doing a dice pool of 20. That's very different than donating for a reroll. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are totally different ways. And so I'm just wanting to sort of get people thinking about like, okay, so you can interact with dice in very different ways. Also, it could not be dice. It could be names, it could be a guest spot, it could be lots of different things, right? So just like thinking about, or in our case for Colas, it could be radios, like we got them radios. So thinking about really different ways in which you can think about interactions depending on the style of game you want. If you want like there are different styles, and I would probably talk about like sort of slightly more antagonistic styles as well, if that is something you want. So Trooper, backtracking a bit from my lurking, is there a risk of using websites, VODs as sources? Never know when something might get lost or blocked because who knows why. Well, I would only use my own VODs as like my own stuff as sources. And I have hard copies of all of my RPG VODs. Every RPG that I have streamed on my channel, I have a VOD for. Like, I have it downloaded on my hard drive. So if something happened, like YouTube died, if YouTube died in some kind of a way and doesn't exist anymore, and everything gets destroyed off of Twitch, I could probably just make a website and host the videos myself on my own website, and then I just have to like change the links on in the ebook or in a second printing. So I think that because I have kept copies of all of my shows, because of course I would, I think that even if these external sources implode, I can make sure that the citations were there. And even if I did, I could also like just cut out the specific examples. I could do some editing, have specific examples, and just have them in a website. Like, so that's always possible. Yes. Look, we've taken 25 steps in game. I totally did it. Cheek pinch. You can make clips of relevant parts and list them. Yeah, totally, exactly. That's exactly right. Thank you, Scabbynack. I think for the book, it would be a good investment to get a personal server and link to recordings there instead of YouTube. To be honest, I suspect that at least half of why DFA donations worked was that they had the message read out on stream, and the mechanics were just part of it. I think that's also true. And so then, and again, we can talk about reading out donation messages. You should maybe think about that. Like, there are a lot of things that you can do that some people may not have thought about. Like, have you thought about channel points if you're on Twitch? Have you thought about reading out donation messages? Here's some things you can do. So I think there's like a lot of basically just little bits of advice people could think about that would be useful for people who've never done it before. If you've never done it before, if you haven't watched a lot of streams that have worked it, like, because a lot of us here have seen a lot of different streams that have all worked around this issue in really different ways. And so we have some insight, and some people they don't know it yet. So like, we can write it down. We're gonna write it down. The multi-choice I mentioned selected narrative or NPC options for the next scene, right? So that's really interesting, and that's very different than just dice. Digital pack rat for the win. And so messing with players with half. So Sea Spider, for me, that's why I stopped watching. I stopped watching DFA because I was really bothered by the ways in which specifically Goober's character was being messed with. I didn't like it. It made it, and also because all the messages were being read out live, it interrupted the game for me. And I just couldn't watch it after a while. Like, there are a lot of things I really liked about it, but the obtrusiveness of the donation system as it was manifested made it so that for me as an audience, I could not enjoy watching it. And I understand for different audiences, it would be great. And I think that DFA became a game for that audience and not for me. And that's also fine. Not everything has to be for me. Gonna just note, not everything has to be for me. But you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like early on, it wasn't the same. It became that. And so I basically stopped watching because the manifestation of that did not work for me as an audience. It was too distracting for me. That's, Scabbynack says I couldn't watch DFA because of the messages being read out. Yeah, same here, Scabby. Atomica, side note, thank you for the sounding board earlier. Of course, definitely have some homework and some calls to make over the next few weeks. My pleasure, always, always. I could see it worked, like money-wise. Oh, totally it did. Oh, that's also the book. You need to think that the interactions skew the audience. Oh, that's a very good point. Like, what kind of interactions you have will impact what kind of audience you have. So you have to think, what kind of audience do you want? Right, like, all these things are related, right? Those things are related. Like, I think... I have a thought. It's about Kolos, and it's about you all as an audience. And I'm going to tell you after I read this. Looking back, I'm glad you made me go back to the Queen of Winds, even though it was hard. We really cared about each other, you know? It was important for me to be there for the end. Good. Hello, Heart Fairy. Yeah, the audience seemed to decide that Jackal had schizophrenia, and I'm not sure that's what he intended. Though, because he's a professional, he rolled with it. Yes, that's exact. And so, like, I felt uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I, as an audience member, felt uncomfortable watching that, and I was like, I can't right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I didn't feel comfortable with it. I love what you did tonight, which is thank you, Neo. The Goops part was actually neat, at least early on. The message did get distracting and obnoxious the longer it went on, though. That's where I was at, Crit Twitch. Like, in the beginning, actually, it was fine. Like, because I watched quite a lot of DFA, but in the beginning I thought actually was pretty cool, but then it just started feeling trolly, and I didn't like it. I know other people did, and I understand that having a trolling relationship, cultivating trolls as your audience is a strategy, and there are communities and games that might really enjoy that, right? That was not my preferred experience, but I will say this: a really trolly audience does generate a lot of money. If you can cultivate a really trolly audience, and you can tie money to the trolling, and then you can pit the audience against each other, you can make a lot of money that way, which you might need. So, like things like, hey, iShield, we're talking about incentive, like audience show participation, because I'm writing an RPG book, and I want to give advice about how one could different ways of doing audience incentives, and what those things might mean, what you might want, what you might not want. You might want this for this circumstance, this for this other circumstance, how it impacts tone, how it impacts audience, and how you develop your audience, what kind of community you're going to have. Like, there are a lot of different things that you can, like, just a lot of different ways to think about audience interaction. Do you charge money? Do you use channel points or sort of non-monetary things? Is it based on subscriptions or follows or retweets? Like, what is it? What are you wanting to incentivize if you want to? What is the function of it? Do you actually just want this here because you need input from the audience? Like, what are you doing? And then what are the ways to achieve what it is that you want? Audience participation in stream RPGs and making money with it, or not if you don't want to. I'll keep something to myself about that because I think we all know. Yeah. But also couldn't be. And the thing is that DFA had a very trolly audience, right? The audience that was developed in DFA was very trolly. Go to sleep. Like, that's what developed, and it was because of how the incentives were structured. The audience that tuned into weekly affirmations was different because the way that the incentives were structured was different. And I think corporate sends also had a different vibe because the way the incentives were structured were different, right? So I think that you can develop a kind of an audience vibe based on how you structure your incentives. And so I think it becomes important to think about how you structure your incentives so that you can get the audience that you want. Do you know what I mean? You can develop. Good night, D&D. So you can develop that. So, for example, in corporate in DFA, which is Death from Above, which was a BattleTech. Was a BattleTech game? Trooper, really, you telling someone to go to sleep? No. I mean, other people should sleep. Other people should sleep. And how you address that, GM, the audience, totally crit twitch. Totally. So for example, for people who've never seen it, it was a BattleTech game that used like maps, like real huge cool maps and super cool, super large mecha, like really, like the mechs were really cool looking, the maps were really cool, and there were incentives that you could use to buy to impact the game, but DFA allowed you to give money to do things to harm the opposition force or to harm the players, or to aid the players, or to aid the opposition force. And so what ended up happening was there was you would get kind of battles between the audience members to either support the villains or to support the heroes, and it was all very, and like you could change the terrain, you could add in fog, it was a lot of stuff, but it would like and this was very wise if you wanted to generate money, because people will get into bidding wars with each other, right? And so then it does more, but it also sort of set up a kind of a you had people spending money to kill the player characters, right? Like to help kill them, right? And that gives you a different feeling. That's a different vibe than if you can't do that, right? Like that's different. There's a difference between if you only allow the audience to aid the players versus if you allow the audience to harm the players or aid the players. Like that's going to give you a different feeling. And there are times when you may actually really want the audience to be able to harm the players, player characters, not the players themselves. Come on now. You know what I mean? Like that actually might be important to generate the feeling that you like, regardless of if money's involved or not. Like you could do this all channel points and have no money be involved. But there may be moments where you actually want that. You want a kind of a competitive thing happening. That might be important depending on what the game is and how it works. Right. So it depends. Like, so do you want that in your incentives, or do you not want that? Yes. And the big difference between DFA and Corp Sins was reading the messages. Corp Sins largely didn't, so the form of the trolling took was different. That's true, right? And also, Corporate Sins had missions, right? Like there was different sort of stuff. Encouraged long and self-aggrandizing messages, which it did. They were like 10-inch 3D printed models from the model files. It was very cool. It's very cool. And all the players are really good. There's another thing. Ruff! The King of Hearts didn't make it back after all. Oh, I'm sorry. I really tried. That's okay. Losing your overseer was part of being a fairy, even though it's sad. I knew to expect it. Talking to everyone here made me feel a lot better. I know it's going to be okay. I'm still sorry, but I'm glad you're okay. Are fairy parties normal? Like this? Where all the fairies hang out? No. It's so cool meeting other fairies. I didn't know any of them. We never get to hang out. Oh, you just hang with your overseer? Yes. Until they die. Oh. Where do fairies and overseers come from? Well, fairies are made by overseers. We aren't nearly as old as they are, though. Overseers are like part of the planet. They exist when the world exists, and it dies when they die. The idea that they are different entities is an illusion. They are all the same thing. Huh. Actually, the separation of all things is an illusion. We're all part of the same whole. Everything you think is internal to you is influenced by external forces, and those forces are also influenced by you, because they're all connected, and your senses, which tell you otherwise, are lying. Huh. I don't know if that really answered my question, but thank you. I want to know how many fairies are hanging out here. Okay, not that many. Okay. DFA also had missions. Oh, that's right. The other issue, though, is making sure you have the right utilization rate. Yes, ODS. Reading messages was a payoff even when the bonuses or penalties weren't used. Yeah. You need to pick a resource element that the audience feels is going to be used quickly enough that the euphoria from the transaction doesn't go away. If that's what you want, but maybe you don't want that. It depends on if what your goal is to raise money or not, right? So, because I think that you can use, like, because ODS, you missed it, but I was talking about how what I'm doing with audience interaction with Colos has nothing to do with raising money, so I don't need it quick, right? Actually, what I want is aid in working the simulation, and so I will ask for aid when I need it. That's, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm gonna do, and so I don't need, I can have a slow burn. You know what I mean? Like I can have a slow burn interaction because I don't need fast turnover. I just need things I need a co-conspirator, and so I need you to help me when I need it. And then so it depends on what your goal is. Heart Fairy is a correspondence master. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Corp Sins India. Yes. No. Well, we're talking about audience interaction, and sometimes it's monetization and sometimes it's not, right? Like what do you want? Maybe you don't want monetization, and then maybe you do. And if you do you want a lot of monetization, or do you want only a little monetization? And or do you want something else? Like, do you want subs instead? Like, so like just kind of pondering what it is that you want, and then figuring out how that will work there. And I think about this too, because if you're tying audience support to subs, which they can only do once a month, that's going to give you a very different pace than if it's something they can donate to all the time, right? That's just very, very different, right? Or do you detach donations from in-game effects, right? Like, so in Kolos, by the way, Crit Twitch, I'm going to sing for you. In Kolos, there are donations and tips which I use to pay the cast, but they are disconnected from audience participation. You can participate for no money. You can also tip or not. Like, I have just separated those things. They're not connected. You can connect them or you can separate them. So they basically like thinking about all the different ways that if you're going to be streaming, what you can do and like why you might want to do this or that, what impact that might have, and just letting you let you ponder it, and because I'm going to put it in my book for advice. You're just asking for an intangible value. Yeah, Hyper tried tying things to new subs, and I don't think that worked. Made existing subs feel still valued. Yeah, I would actually do it to I would do it to resubs too. I wouldn't do it just to new subs. I mean, personally, I would do it to resubs and also new subs. I would do both. Not yet, but we're almost there. By the way, Crit Twitch. The name game. Come on, everybody. I say now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name. I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F. Or an M will appear. And then I say bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Crit Twitch, bo, bit Twitch, banana, fanner, fo, fit, twitch, fee, fi, mo, mit, twitch. Crit Twitch. Yes. Yes. Baron, yeah, I kind of found out I didn't like audience participation via monetary things after watching Hyper kind of overdoing it. I do both. I sing. But you know what, though? Here's the thing, Baron Tor. I've seen, I thought that the way that Hyper did monetization for weekly affirmations was actually really cool. I actually it did take the first hour of the show, but I thought it was very nice, right? That like the monetization of donations in weekly affirmations was something that worked for me personally. I really enjoyed that you would give this donation and then they would read off a positive affirmation. I liked that. I thought that was very cool. And it was nice, you know what I mean? And it was fun, and it became kind of like a cool, like it was an opportunity for the people who were there around the couch to interact with each other in a kind of a fun way. And so I really, really enjoyed the way that worked. I also like that they turned it off when they started the game. Like they gave themselves like an hour to talk, like I might do, where those things would come in. It was like all like the pre-show talking part. And then when they started the game, they turned them off. And when they turn off the alert bell. But I thought that worked really well. I thought that was very nice. I enjoyed that quite a lot. I thought that was cool. I thought it worked. The thing is, what I thought was, and this is, by the way, this is my ultimate point about all of this. What I thought was cool about that was that it was very tailored to that game, and it really brought about a certain vibe that I liked. If you didn't like the vibe, then maybe you wouldn't like it. You know what I mean? But like, I think that you have to be really deliberate and thoughtful and intentional about how you are structuring your audience, your participation, because it's going to impact the audience that you have, right? Like those things are like the way that the interaction, if you have interaction or don't, will impact what kind of audience you have. What kind of interaction you have will also impact the audience you have. You know what I mean? And vice versa. So I feel like just to be thoughtful about it, like I would just say don't, I did get tongue twisted. I would say don't just like my one piece of advice would be like, if you want to have audience interaction, don't do it unthoughtfully. Don't just say like, oh, well, I want to have an audience interaction, so I'll just say $10 for a dice. Okay, like you haven't thought about that. Like I want you to think about it. I want you to think about, what do you want? What impact do you want to have? Because it will have an impact, and what one do you want? And then think about how to structure this in a way to get what you want. And then here's some thoughts, here's some advice, right? I think if you're going to tie something to membership, those values should be introduced from the beginning. Bits or donations are probably less difficult for paying audiences to stomach because they can have immediate buy-in. But maybe you don't want that much. Maybe you don't want that volume. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't want that volume. Maybe you want to have a lesser volume. And so, you know what I mean? Like you can like just ponder it. And I know that some people will do retweets. Right? If you retweet the going live, that there will be something that will happen. Yeah. Although I will always have a soft spot for how Hyper did things since I won an NPC appearance on their Valiant show the first time I subbed and donated. Well, and that's interesting. No, that's a different way, right? An NPC appearance is a different situation that you can do, and that's another thing that is possible. And I'm not saying anything is bad or good necessarily. I think the one thing I will say is bad. The one thing I will say is bad, and only conditionally, is if you have an incentive system that warps the mechanical economy of the game such that it is not playable anymore, and that campaign is going to be a long-running campaign. If it is a one-shot, nobody cares. You go gonzo. But if you have an incentive system that makes the game unplayable, then I think that would be bad. That would be my one caveat. Right? Like that would be the one thing. Yes. I also think Hyper had the disadvantage of trying to do this at a scale that was rarely attempted at the time. That's true. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there weren't many players at the corporate business level. There still aren't. There still aren't. I mean, ODS, there are very few still. I think there are probably, 3 to 5 total out of about 9,000 streamers. They're really not that many. Gift subs, Coldrake. Polished, how did your presentation go? How did it go? Tell us about it. ODS, I think there are very few. Even at this point in time, there's probably I can only think of a few. They're not many. Again, also, the average viewer for RPG streams viewership is 28. The median is 3. So, numbers are low. So what I'm trying to say, generally speaking, we have very few people who are at that, who have that kind of scale. It's just very, very few people. And then I think that Hyper experimented with different models, right? And I think that their experimentation is very useful to think about. This worked here, this worked less well. Oh, this worked really well if you want this experience, but not if you want this other experience. So I think that the fact that they did really different things, Hyper, that they tried different things is actually quite instructive. And there are people who've never seen any of those Hyper shows, so they, especially in the beginning, especially that first year or two of Hyper where they were very experimental, we can learn a lot from it. And I think sort of sharing the things that you was oh, this is what Hyper did. Oh, this is what Geek and Sundry did. Oh, this is what this channel does. This is what this channel does. And they can look at all the different ways in which people are doing things and ponder what you can learn from it. And I think that's really useful. Coldrake. The name game. Come on, everybody. I say now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F or an M will appear. And then I say bow at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can rhyme. Coldrake, Boldrake, banana, fanner, for Foldrake, fee, fi, mo, moldrake. Coldrake. Woo! Yes! Thank you. Crone says, I watched a 40K stream that clearly thought about their monetization because there are different die types to buy that each cost different amounts, and there's a hard cap on how much of a die can be stored at once. So it encourages continuous participation because if you wanted to buy dice, you have to wait until some are used to replenish instead of just dropping a bunch of dice at the starter end. See, that's very interesting. But also, some people don't tie that audience participation to tips or bits at all. They tie it to Patreon, right? So I'm pretty sure that's roll for it, right? So roll for it, their audience interaction happens through Patreon, right? So you can, at a certain tier, you can name NPCs. At a certain tier, you, right? So there are things that, I think there are polls. at a certain tier on Patreon, you can participate in polls that might impact the plot. Right, so that's a whole different model. So rather than dice, it's these other things that are not dice related, and they're not tied to immediacy, they're tied to Patreon. So that's a whole different model, but it also still does involve audience participation. So, right, so like thinking like, okay, do you want to do polls? Do you want to do names of characters? Do you want to have an NPC show up? Like, what are the different things that you can do? Do you want it like corporate sins? Do you like or defect? Do you want to have missions? Do you want to donate equipment? Like, what are the different things that you want to have happen in your game? What are the ways in which you want to have it happen? What do you want to tie it to? And those are all really different. And I'm not saying one or is better than the other. I'm just saying you should probably think about it. Polish says we have incentives for subs. Let a player succeed at crit on a roll. Choose player but not win. Bits donations. 1d4 add to a pool, and incoming raids, you get to ask the cast a question that we answer in character at the end of the show. Oh, that's very cool. That's fun, Polished. That's fun. It varies a bit between the system. Presentation went well. The average is also heavily skewed by a few channels. Oh, Polished. It is very skewed. You've probably seen this stream in your research troopers since they've run for a couple of months and hit 100 views called Warhams. I have, yes. That's why I do median, mean, and mode, because right, those numbers are quite different. I learned sound is my biggest deal breaker. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I know more. Yes. Thank you, Polish. Thank you. Also, when I'm talking transactions, money may be standard, but I think the model does apply for the creative emotional investment as well. I think that's also true. Yes. And then think about that. Do you want that as well? They get more of the money that way, which doesn't get a cut that way. Right. So like you have to these are things to think about. Roll4 also started that model before affiliates were a thing. That's also true. Yes, because the vast majority of streamers are not going to, if you are an RPG only streamer, it is not that likely you're going to hit partner streaming RPGs only. There are not many people who hit an average of 70 viewers or more. Very few. Very, very few. It's not a lot. Not a lot of people are going to hit partner. I'm just going to say, not a lot of people are going to hit partner if you are a RPG only streamer. You might want to play video games and build your audience that way if you want to hit partner, because the averages are not there for RPG streams. Just noting it. If you want to if you want to make partner, your RPG better be your also rent, and that is true. Or you need it to make the right friends. But even still, like the numbers are very small. Purpose of the raid question: the raider, their community are likely to ask something they're interested in, and thus it creates incentives to stick around and watch. That's a great idea, Polish. I think that's wonderful, and that's cool, right? Like there's because the things like be creative at what you're doing. Warhams also has Patreon incentives. Patrons get to be NPCs, servitors in the game, and can suggest things to do on the fumble list instead of the one in the game book. Oh, that's cool. Coldrick says, I'm hoping we will do polls in Kolos, but it may be tough to retro the campaign since they were invaded in 39 and their contribution was 145 pilots flying for the British. We did talk about Polish Jews. They have shown up because they were the ones who got rounded up. But we're trying to get that trying to get as much diversity in there as we can. And RPGs are still too niche for hobby, and that is true. You've come for the end too. It's a bit like a party. So fun. I love parties. Oh, I wish I could make tea for everyone. But the Dream King doesn't have any. Oh, shucks. Well, you like yours black, don't you? Well, I knew he'd be trouble right from the start. The Dream King was such a mess of an overseer. Well, how did he get to be the last one alive? It's not fair. Hello, little fairy, dream fairy. Also, another thing to think about is if you're doing player-only incentives, let's say, is it a group incentive or is it by character? If it's by character, you can generate more money because people will get into bidding wars, right? But the problem with, for me, one of the things to watch out for, it's a thing to watch out for. It's a thing to note. It's a thing to note that if the players really rely on those per character incentives to survive the game, it's entirely possible that, for example, female players may not get as many incentives as male players, or players that are playing characters that are not as personable may not get as many incentives as players who are super charismatic. And so if you're going to separate out by player, you might want to think about that as a possibility and think about what you want to do about that in advance, and maybe you'll be lucky and that won't ever be a problem. But you might want to think about it. You might want to think about what are you going to do if things get skewed and like one player has 20 benefits and the other players have 1. What are you going to do if your audience does that? So like then just like ponder like how do you want to deal with that as a possibility? And I have some thoughts about that actually that I don't know. Like I have some thoughts. By character gets weird. It can happen. One of the character ideas I've had in the magical land of ever getting invited to the game was a poll that got out of Ostergaard by having a bum. Like, oh yeah, and sometimes I rely on players to do some of this. Or is it generally becomes pay to win? Depends on what the incentives are. Or get way more depending on the audience, yeah. How does that make the others feel if they don't get the cash flow some particular player is? Yes. Hey, Triple M, how are you? Right? So like, just like pondering what can you do to make sure that that doesn't happen, unless that's what you want. If that's what you want, then you keep going for it. But I would just say, note that one of the things that could happen if you do it by player is that this could happen. So just note it, be aware, and then think about it. Polish says, it's one of the reasons why we chuck unallocated dice into a dice pool. A lot of our subs don't seem to care that much about who gets it. We also allow players to donate their dice to another player character. Oh, that's really good. That's really good, Polish. See there, right there. So Polish has, we allow players to donate their dice to another player character is a great way to deal with that potentiality. And it may not come up, but there's Polish who thought about it. Polish is like, here's a thing that we can think about. Let's think about this, right? And so like, I think that one of the things will be important when I write this book is to give people things to think about so they can decide what they want to do about it. And what happens if your chat are mostly decent people, but your game is how they express their schadenfreude? Yes. Corpse Sins often seems to have become Lauren versus Dan races, right? So then what are you doing? Do you allow people to donate to the GM? As another question. Do you allow people to donate to the GM? Maybe yes, maybe no, right? You have to decide if you want that in your game, and you have to think about how that might impact how your game is run if people can donate to the GM as well as to the players. Also, a thing to think about, and this is something, so I was thinking about this with The Witcher, which was over at Grimjack, but now over at Love Laugh Limdy, that I believe, but then you get the troll crying, but I bought it for, yes, right? This is the thing. So you have to think, will they be upset about that? So you have to sort of ponder that thing as well. Polish, we do, but some of our systems don't have the GM rolling dice. It's also, we leave it up to the cast when these dice are used. Yes. Yes. Well, that's what you get when you're relying troll donations. Donating to the GM, Doombringer. So here's a thing, and there's a thought here from this. This is interesting. What I think a couple of channels I've seen have done, Myth Magic Mayhem says, I'm good. The good and bad of the day have balanced each other out. Reorganizing one of my collections at a moment. Oh, cool. What I've noticed that what some streams that do have individual donations is that they also have group donations. So as a viewer, you could donate to the group as a whole or to an individual player. And in my experience, watching shows that have done that, and also having been in shows that have done that, is that it doesn't tend to result in really unbalanced donations. I mean, I suppose it could, but what tends to happen is that people tend to donate for the group, and they tend to only donate for a character if that character is in dire trouble. So I've noticed that having the option, like, I might encourage people to have both, right? Both an individual donation and a group donation if they want individual donations, because I have seen that it has caused less warping in general. We'd have to we need more data to see if that will always hold. But right now it seems to be working. So that's cool. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Dream Fairy. Meow had a feeling you'd be here again. Because of my determination? Something like that. Mr. Dream King has only gotten worse.
He spent a lot of time away, avoiding the hero, but he can't do that anymore. He's really sick. Meow is worried he doesn't have much longer.
Oh, good thing we made it just in time. I'll sing to him. I've been all over the world now. I've been around the world, I've every piece of the earth song. I don't know why. Except his. So it's totally different from last time. This time, he has to listen.
Meow isn't so sure about that, but you don't care what Meow thinks, do you?
Nope. Oh.
Sheesh. Mr. Dream King really isn't a bad guy. Really. But he's been through so much. It's hard for Meow to understand sometimes. Being alive for an eternity, it would make anyone go crazy. Meow just wishes she could help somehow. And Meow really wishes deep down in her little heart that you or anyone could talk some sense into him. But the hero will probably be coming soon too. Meow hasn't seen her yet, but when she does, that's going to be the end. Meow isn't ready for that.
Oh. Let's see what we got here. Gaming streams Warrior Striker performance. Also, how Trooper is considering how to write a 12-volume set of books on how to play Colas as well as playing. Is this an no? This is for the RPG book that I'm writing. Like I'm running City of Light and Shadow, the campaign, but I'm gonna turn it into a book. But I don't want the book to be just a setting book on how to. If you want to play French Resistance, here's a French Resistance book. I want it also to be a game aid, a philosophical book as well. Like it'll be like half game book, but then also be a large chunk of player advice and GM advice and thinking about all these things and how to incorporate this, because I want the game book to actually think about streaming from the very beginning as part of it, as well as if you're not. So like basically, I just want it to be all in there. So it's for the book. Another thing Warhammer does, Trooper, each player has Valor dice. Each player as a group have Glory dice, and the GM has Doom dice. Oh. If you were going to make one or the other cost more money, would you make the group or the individual benefit cost more theoretically? I think that you want to have better value for the group, right? So like the group might cost more, but the value is probably better for the group, right? So like if it's like $10 for an individual die, but $15 to give all 5 players a die, that kind of a thing. It seems like you could get a behavioral analyst scientist to help with some of that too. Yes, there is. And I actually have a friend of mine who's a cognitive psychologist, and I could ask her about that because she could help out. Caldrake, Mr. Rogers, yes. Henrietta Pussycat, yes. There's the other style of group donations, allowing the people to donate to build up to unlock a large benefit together. I would die if I ever got to see where reenacted Mr. Rogers' puppet scene. I want to meet some puppets. When did it stop being a chapter and start being a dissertation? Well, no, I don't think I did. I think I got all the fairies. Or if the group is pool share, make those dice cheaper, yeah. Hey, I don't think I did, because there was a 1 there, 2 there. I think I got them, maybe. I'll check. Hoi, what's up? Thanks for busting me and Mooney out of the spirit world. We had a bunch of cool adventures together here. Mooney's still sad about losing his overseer. I'm not really, though. The Sun King's was pretty messed up. I guess for me it was more obvious, since he put me in a cage, and all that. I guess the Dream King is pretty messed up too. It's too bad. It's only a matter of time until he goes full monster. Ain't that just the way? Gonna check. I talked to this fairy, this dude, those 2, and there was nobody that way. Yeah, so I don't think I missed them. The teeny tiny dog fairy next to the... Oh, no, I talked to him. I talked to both of those folks. Got them already. Got them. So there was another thing, right? Besides, like, do you donate per person or as a group? That's one. Gasp. Oh, it's you. There was something else I was thinking about. Don't let the light go crit. Go to the light, Carol Ann. There was something else about donations that I wanted to bring up. Another option, another thing to think about was, oh gosh, individual versus group. That was one. Oh, I know what it was. Specific versus vague. That's another thing to think about. Specific versus vague is another thing you really have to think about when it comes to donations and what kind of impact that will have on the game. And it's really good and useful to think about specific versus vague. And I have an example. Give me a moment. Ooh, it's you. Talking to everyone here is so scary. Everyone's overseers are gone. I miss the Moon's Queen, but at least I have Sunny. Thanks to Sunny, I've been practicing my bravery skills. I've been living this strange new world and not seeing my overseer and basically doing whatever I want. All with my best friend. It's been baby steps the whole way, but if you keep on walking no matter what, even a baby like me can step very far. That's what Sunny told me. I feel less scared of everything now. Well, a little bit. The physical world is so intriguing. It's very solid and consistent. I really like it here. Let's go the other way. I would love a game book that had 4 to 6 pages per section that touch on each section as well as how play could be affected. Yeah, I want some theory with examples that can be, because basically I don't want to just be like, okay, so here's the 20 arrondissements of Paris. Here's some important NPCs. Here are the rules you should use. Here's like some weapon tables. Here's some plot hooks. Like, that's not the book I want to write. That's not what I want to do. Because like, I feel like I could do that, but I actually want to say, okay, here's how you can do things. I want to teach people how to fish. I don't want to just give them a fish. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want the book to not be just a fish. I want it to be a book that will teach you how to fish, even if you want salmon and not haddock. That's what I want to do. So I'm trying to, like, that's what I want with this book. I want it to be a teach you how to fish book, as well as having a fish. It'll be both a fish and a how to fish book. That's what I want to do. Vagueness, don't worry, I'm still thinking about it. This is when I need Krillin to tell me the example. I can't think of anything, not new, but you know, like legacy, yeah. Donating to specific versus vague. Oh, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a specific example in a second. I'll tell you my first DMG having written out conversation with help. Yes, right? Like, I want things like that. I want like a good, like, I want those specifics. You want to write a GURPS book. Well, you know, that's true. Chirps. Like donating dice that can only be used to re-roll things versus donating dice and be added to any pool. That's one example, right? And those are very different. A dice that can only be used to re-roll versus a benefit, like, that's a very different thing what you can do. But I was thinking more specifically about problems. So Dot does a thing which I think is pretty cool. And this is like another model again that we can think about, right? Well, she'll have like a bar. She'll have a bar. And when the bar fills up, right, everybody sort of donates to the bar together. So now that's a whole different model. So rather than, right, individual, it's now a group thing. And when the bar it fills up, like something shatters, but it's not specific what that thing will be, right? It is vague what that thing will be. So rather than donating to make the difficulty +2 for the scene, which is specific, it's something really big will happen. But the GM can decide what that thing will be based on what's happening in the moment. So rather than saying, chat, if you donate $50, I will kill a PC, for example, right? Like, that would be very specific. But instead you can say, you know what? If you hit this bar, something will happen. And sometimes that thing is not negative for the players. It was one of the bars, one of the bar fills in Scum and Villainy, the Purloin Code actually saved Teddy, right? So like, having a bar that will have an impact on the story, but the GM gets to decide what that is a vagueness which gives you a very different feeling than if it is a very specific thing that the players are donating to. So like, that's another thing to think about. Do you want vague? Do you want specific? When do you want vague? When do you want specific? Like, what are the, you know what I mean? Like, those are things to sort of think about when you're sort of constructing interaction if you want it. The name game. Come on, everybody. I say, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F, or an M will appear. And then I say, bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fan, or info.
Then I say the name again with an F very plain. Then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time. And there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. O Dias, Bobo Dias, banana fana fofo Dias, fee, fi, momo Dias. O Dias. Good Strong Hands officially funded. Yes. Yes. Thank you. That is awesome. I suppose if the song is a reset, so it closes up, it's okay. I'm gonna order something and then wait for it to come in. And then Scum Villain attacking the ship, the bomb is in it. Yeah, those are all really great things. And my feeling, again, my feeling is that I think I want things donated to the GM to be vague. And whether or not it's specific or vague for the players is up to you. I feel like specific for the players can be great. Vague for the GM could be really good because we're thinking about like distortion. What can you do? Like just like, you know, pondering it and like, you know, you have to work it out. Hello, you've come just in time for the end. We've all gathered here to bear witness. It's a very special time for us fairies and for the universe. Ooh, it's sad, but perhaps not too sad. Everything must come to an end at some point. Oh, I don't think I can talk to this fairy anymore. Ooh, so we need to have a conversation. Why do people always try to get Trooper so wound up that when he's supposed to be closing up shop? The world may never know. But wait, we have CR tonight. We're going to do CR. We're also going to do our giveaway before we end. Also, I have a little bit of extra time before we go. We have a little bit extra time, just a little bit. Yeah, Anil, Miriam is back. Nobody tries to wide troopers. I just am very enthusiastic about things. I'm back, but I'm a big fan of the pregame buy, so the GM has time to put them into the game. That's chromatic. That's another thing. Is it a pregame buy? Does it happen before the game happens, or does it happen during the game? Right? So there's so many different ways. I haven't ordered it yet. Also, my phone is not here. Okay. I just want to go I want to see what's on the other end of the door. I just want to see I just want to know what's on the other end of the door. I shouldn't, should I? I shouldn't. Should I? I shouldn't. Do you think I should press the button and find out what's in this doorway? It's a cliffhanger. All right. Okay, I'm going to leave the cliffhanger. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the cliffhanger. One more week but next week's probably the last week of Wandersong, right? And that's the rub. What's the dynamic for when yes. When does it drop? So and these are things I actually just think you should think about. I'm going to do this. Chat, we're going to do a giveaway. Our giveaway is going to be Capitalism 2, which is a sim. So just make sure you say something in the next 5 minutes as I'm wrapping up, and then you'll be entered into the giveaway. So, we'll just do that. We talked to all the fairies. That was a lot of progress. And we really sort of talked a lot about this sort of achievement unlocked. Yes. It's so good, right? The true cliffhanger. Can Trooper stretch Wandersong to the end of the year? No. So here's the thing. I have to tell you a secret that I can't really tell you. I mean, it's not really, I don't think it's a secret. But I'm going to have to be vague, not because people are holding me to account, but because actually there's some data that I don't know the answer to. So, you know what I mean? So there you go. And the thing is, I also should know the answer to this data. I just don't know the answer because it's not written down. Y'all, I need to tell you something. I need to finish up Wandersong next week. That is a need. It is a must. I must finish up Wandersong next week. Must happen. So the reason why I must finish it up next week is because I actually think we only have one. I think we only have one session left. We're just going to be concentrated on it, because here's the thing. I think for Thursdays,
I'm doing a thing on Thursdays. I'm doing a game on Thursdays, an RPG for 4 Thursdays. It's a 4-episode miniseries in November, which I assume are like the four Thursdays of November. But it also doesn't start until I think 8 is the thing that I'm going to be doing. I think it starts at 8, which means I think I can do like a little short stream from like 6 to 7:30. So I'll be able to do like a short stream on Thursdays, and calling out Nightbot. And right, so I think start with the game, the discussion after. Like, so basically. So I think I can do little short streams on the Thursdays for November, which means probably we'll do something like maybe mini Metro, something a little bit in a slightly different vein, something a little bit less narrative, because I will be doing in November. Is this a secret? I've never played Minecraft Polished. Is it good? I've never played it. Yeah, but if I do Mini Metro, it's just chatting with Mini Metro in the background. You never played it either. Oh, there you go. I've never played it, so I don't know what it's like. So what I was going to say is I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to just say it. I think it's fine. There's going to be a 4-part miniseries, which is a return to Overlight. So the Overlight game that I played in, the one that like everybody cried every single session, at least somebody on the cast cried every session. That one, the Overlight that was run by Dot, we're gonna go back to it for 4 episodes. So we're doing a little 4-episode miniseries. We're getting the band back together, and the only time we could all meet was Thursday night. So I think it's at 8 o'clock. So I think I'll probably do like a little mini stream of my own, and then I'll be doing the Overlight for November. But because I'll be doing Overlight, I really, really, really want to make sure we can finish Wandersong next week, so that I don't have to worry about we'll be done, and I can just do single bit metal. Yes. Okay. Yes. So we're doing Overlight. We're coming back to Overlight, and I'm really excited about it. Okay, good. I'm glad I can say something. So I'm very excited. We're gonna be doing Overlight in November. So I'm gonna just write. Please, to remember, playing Minecraft would be a legit foxhole, because he would get 1 block down and then he'd be waist high. It's probably true. So I want to finish Wandersong next week. That's my goal. We're all gonna talk about it. What else do I want to tell you? No. I'm going. So that's that. I'm gonna find our winner for Capitalism 2. And then I'm going to tell you all something that I think I'm going to tell you where you can find me. Crit Twitch. Oh, is it because you don't like capitalism? No, Crit's like, no, I reject capitalism. I reject it. You want? Okay, that's fair. Okay, not Crit Twitch. The winner is Barontor. Barontor, do you want capitalism? Would you like some capitalism, Barontor? Barontor is the billionaire. I'm going to Barontor. I'm going to give you capitalism right now. I'm not quite certain how all that's going to work, but I'm going to give you some capitalism right now. I'm going to put it in a capitalism in a box. Let me curious, Barontor. Let me copy this for you. Delicious. Yeah, I wonder if you can can you eat it? Is it like a baked good? That's a question that I have. Those are all questions. And all right, yes. And where can you find me next? That's what I want to tell you. That's what we're doing before we end. I was like, and then I'm going to order food, and then I'm going to host Critical Role. It's all great. We're all in it right now. Giving away capitalism is not how capitalism works. Maybe. If you learn how to stream RPGs and make money, let us know, Barontor. So here's what it is. You can find me tomorrow, 1 p.m. over at Love Laugh Lindy for the Aether's Walkway, which is a Cypher System game. 7 p.m. on this channel tomorrow. episode 8 of City of Light and Shadow. Solo session. Oscar walking into a very small apartment where Luke's dad is. And there are 2 police officers out on the street below, 2 dead bodies of police officers in the hallway, also Luke in the hallway, Luke's mom in the apartment, not a lot of space to move around in there, and I don't know what's going to happen, but things are going to happen, and you might want to be there if you can. If you cannot be there, then maybe you can just watch the VOD, or if you don't care, then you don't do it at all. Whatever you want. There's that. Oh, I bit. Oh, no. I'm going to end the stream, Rissa, on those bits. So on Saturday, you can find me here at noon for the Outer Worlds. At 8 p.m. over on Praxagora the Smophoria's channel for the Regiment. And then I have things to tell you. This is kind of important. Do you want to know? There was a fly. I have to kill it. So look, next week, it's a bit of a, next week, Monday at 3 p.m. on the channel, not this one, on Encounter Roleplay. So next week, 3 p.m. on Monday Eastern, 3 p.m. Eastern, all these times are Eastern, by the way, 3 p.m. Eastern on Counter Roleplay will be the first episode of For the North, which is a Game of Thrones game. And, right? You might, right? I have to do the rub and buff, but, playing a mace. So, and then, of course, you can find me back here on Thursday for the last episode of Wandersong, because we're going to finish it. And that's it. So you can see me. That's where you can find me. Also, there'll be a VOD, I'm sure. But I have got some things to do before we get to that Monday, because I know, I'm so sorry, Rissa. Always, yes. I know I haven't had them done right now. I just haven't time. I also have to put a collar on my regiment jacket as well. Is it inspired by any of the Game of Thrones card decks? No, because it's set in the past. In case you want to know, it's set in the past when the Targaryens are still running things after the Blackfire Rebellion. So there you go. I have socials. You can follow and subscribe this channel if you like. If you don't like, you don't have to. It's up to you. You can join us on our Discord. Our Discord's pretty awesome. We say things there. And you can go to YouTube at Trooper SJP, which is the archive of all of these shows. And as soon as I get a little bit of extra time, and I just finished a big thing, so that's pretty good. So I might get more time soon, in a week or two. There'll be new videos there. Also, you can find me at Academic Foxhole on Twitter, where I might just wax philosophical way too many times. And then I also have a Patreon, which is at Academic Foxhole, and that is to support the players and our artists and our composers, right? So help pay for the RPG shows. That is all my socials. And now I am going to wrap it up with a song. For much thanks to Atomica, who says, why do people always try to get Trooper so wound up when he's supposed to be closing up shop? The world may never know. Suppose that's true. But out of thanks and in inspiration for that donation, I'm going to sing We're in the Money as sung by Ginger Rogers, which means I'm singing it in Pig Latin. And so, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Irway and hey, the anime. Irway and hey, the anime. Iway at gale up, way at weird ways to take gale on way. Irway and hey, the anime.
Either I skates or on say. Oh man, did he rest and pray? We are you three, what's the end way on you? You ever did red lines lay, of red bronze lay, day. And when we see the end, the order look left, the agger in the we're in the money, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
I was trying to get really nasal on that one. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna try to get super nasal, super up in there for that one. I'm so excited. So that was like my very, I was trying to get really like, I was going for an aesthetic there, people. I was very excited. Oh, I need a vaudeville hook. When we get to the next, okay, Scabby Neck, that's brilliant, and I love it. And when we get to the next emote threshold, we're gonna get a vaudeville hook. I'm gonna go get some food, and oh, actually, I can just microwave some pizza. I've got some pizza in the oven. I'm just gonna microwave pizza. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. You're all the greatest. I appreciate you all very much for being my co-conspirators. And if you want to watch Critical Role, you can come back to my channel at 10 p.m. Eastern, and you can chat with us because we're a very mellow chat. And then I will see you maybe tomorrow, or I'll see you around. Bye, everybody. I'm gonna go get some pizza. I'm getting some pizza. Bye.